The following podcast is a group of people who will be talking shit, drinking, using cuss words and living their best lives. The opinions or views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of their sponsors, supporters or anyone important outside of the four walls of the show. If you are not 18 or older, we suggest talking to your parents about this podcast before watching it and becoming scarred for life. We hope you will enjoy this and not get butthurt or become a keyboard warrior after taking it all in. Thank you for watching and supporting us on our journey.
So, Lance McDonald, in the flesh.
Brent, how are you? We've only been trying to do this for 3 months, 4 months.
Maybe a year.
It ain't been that long.
I invited you up a while back, but I understand. I mean, like, you don't have very many weekends.
Yeah, I don't have very many weekends. I don't have much days at all.
Yeah.
It's quick turnaround. And then when I do have time off, it's trying to catch up from things that I've put off.
Well, you got a wife.
I do.
If you got a wife, it means you have to spend some time at home. Like, yeah. That's a prerequisite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which balancing that in our industry is tough.
Yeah.
I can't imagine for like you, people like Dakota and Joe Bornhorst and all these pro racers at a level that they travel 35, 40 weeks a year that have a wife or kids or whatever.
Yeah.
It's got to be tough.
I really wish she was able to come more to the races with me and stuff like that. She does work from home, but she's not able to come because typically the camper is completely, totally packed with crew. If Keenan is here, we're a 5-man crew total, including myself. So you start adding a 6th person in there, it gets tight. 350 square foot camper.
Right.
It gets tight.
And it's really not that desirable for
it's not
a female to be with 5 other guys, regardless, even if you had the room.
She lets me know that regularly. She goes, I'm not going if they're going.
Yeah. There is a reason my wife doesn't go either. Yeah. She, we talked about it. She's actually considering going to Psycho, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. But I also knowing my wife of 15 years, or we've been together longer, been married for, a long time. Mm-hmm. I know she ain't gonna like it. Mm-hmm. But she did. It made me feel good. She's like, we just want to spend time with you. Yeah. Made me feel bad and good at the same time. Yeah. So I was actually kind of, thrilled.
I'm assuming your daughter's coming as well.
Yeah, because it's actually our spring break, her spring break, which sucks because that's a race that I feel like I need to be at on a regular, especially missing DNC this year because of my daughter's state meet next weekend. Yeah. And then regionals, if she makes regionals out of state, falls on the same weekend as Silver State, which means I would miss another huge race. Yeah. And for me, those travels are important. 1 or 2 of those a year are really important. So we'll see. But if she comes, I'll be stoked. I do have to shimmy how I act and my focus has to be split also to make sure that, it's like being at home. So
P&B 2018, I missed Peyton's very large weightlifting meet. He was ranked number 1 in the state, and I missed that because of P&B. And he understood why I had to be there, but I still that was a huge accomplishment for what he worked hard for, and I wasn't there to support him during the biggest final meet of his career. Football was all over.
Was that in high school?
That was in high school, yeah. And be ranked number 1 in the state's a big deal, and I missed it. Of course, I was getting messages and pictures and texts and all that, but it just ain't the same as just not being there.
No.
So I applaud you for understanding, family time is first.
I'm 100% that way. I mean, just to even not to pat myself on the back, but this is how far I'll go. RCGP was at SMB a couple years ago, and it was this weekend or next weekend, I guess it would be. And my daughter's state meet was in Florence, South Carolina. The race was in Piedmont, which is about 2.5 hours from Florence. I woke up out of the motorhome at 6 o'clock in the morning, drove all the way to Florence. It was Mains Day. or no, it was qualifier Saturday. Drove all the way to Florence at 6:00 in the morning, watched their state meet, and then went back.
Oh, wow.
And was pitting for Camden at the time. He was
Right.
one of my drivers for RCGP. But that's like, if I couldn't have done that, I wouldn't have even gone.
Yeah.
You know, I would have had to have missed it.
Yeah.
Those are the and you know, I mean, and I'm sure like if you could get it back, you would.
Yep.
The things you can't get back.
Yep.
You know, and family is one thing. It's different when you miss things that you could go to, like a football game, like to watch your favorite NFL team, or you know, miss a wedding that maybe isn't really important, but you're invited to, but it's work. You know, this is work for us. Yeah. That's different. But watching your kids.
Yeah, when Peyton got his football scholarship to go to college, that was the year that I retired, because he graduated in 2018. And I kind of quit there for a while, but the number one reason why I quit is because I wasn't missing those football games.
Yeah.
You know, as a freshman, he played as a freshman, college football. There ain't many parents get to say that. It doesn't matter whether it's a D1 school, D2, it doesn't matter. No. You know, for him to get a football scholarship and go play football, I wasn't missing that. I went to every single game that he played in, and I just made up my mind. I missed too many of the good stuff. Like when I really missed out on the weightlifting thing, I already knew that his scholarship was coming, and I'm like, I'm not missing it. I'm going to go to those games. That means I have to stop doing RC, which I did. I stopped doing RC.
But sacrifices are made all over the place. You know, some people sacrifice to go to RC races. You know, we sacrifice because we're in the business for family. Yeah, and it's tough. It's really tough because there's things that, you know, I hate missing these bigger races. Yeah. You know, I love going to them for one. I feel like I need to be there. It's not a money thing for me. It's more about seeing my customers and relating with them and racing, because I hardly get to race. Yep. You know, so for me, those are the races I get to go to and socialize and, you know, sometimes do business and not just sell stuff, but like do business as in like future
personal relationships.
Right.
Yes.
And that's important. You know, we're in a very, very niche and small community. We have to, everyone has to capitalize, you know, and there's no guarantees for me. Our guarantees are in sales over the future, and which are not a guarantee, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah, I wouldn't miss them, you know, and I know when people tell me, like when they don't come to one of our races or something because they had something with family, I'm like, oh, didn't say no more. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. If someone says, "Oh, I just couldn't get off my butt," I'm kind of like, "Come on, dude. Yep. You know, let's. Yeah. You're better than that."
Yeah. No, I know the feeling very, very well, very well, and I'm sure everybody else relates as well.
What position did Peyton play?
He's a fullback.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a fullback.
Well,
he was a brute.
Yeah, I only met him a couple times. I met him. What race was that? I might have only met him once. It was in Florida. Was he at Nats?
He was.
Yeah, that's where I met him. It was at Nationals. But the first time I met you was at Colonel's or the Scorcher. I don't know which one it was.
It wasn't Phil Hurd.
It wasn't Phil Hurd.
Yeah, and I want to say it was a Scorcher because it was hot. It was stupid hot.
Yeah.
And I remember you had just not long gotten the white whale.
Yeah. I was doing it myself at that point.
Yep, you were. And I had just met you there.
Yeah. Yep. You were getting into doing race calling and stuff. Like that was kind of like your start. Super Cup or something was going or.
Yeah, I was already kind of doing it on a local level. And I started getting more and more calls to do more events here and there and stuff like that. And Colonel's or the Scorcher was one of them. Colonel's was another. I did Bring the Heat at the original Flowwood location. That was my first like big out-of-state event that I did. That was a lot of fun. Got to do that one. So it was actually one of my first 8-scale races as well. Was that
nice?
Was that one? So
yeah. So what got you into RC?
We were driving down the road in Gainesville, Florida, and we just happened to drive past a hobby town, and they were having their RC Olympics, I think is what they called it at the time. And I was like, well, let's go in there and check it out. It was in November of 2009 is when it was. So we pulled in, and I've got a huge, motorsport background with go-karts and four-wheelers and street bikes and just about anything you can think of with wheels. I've just about raced, but I was looking for something to get my son into, and I really wanted to get him into go-karts. But at the time, go-karts were going from a transition where they were still running modified engines. The clone engines really had.
So you were doing like oval, dirt oval? Or?
I did both dirt oval and road course.
Okay.
I did them both. But I just couldn't afford to get him into that. We didn't have the money to do it.
Sure.
We came across the hobby town, seen that, and I'm like, you know what, this is pretty cool. Well, we got him a Traxxas, and we went to our little track in Lake City that had just been opened up. And Ken Shiver and another gentleman, I can't remember who it was now, they came to the track, and it was like, hey, you should come to Shiverville and race with us. And we did the following weekend, and, man, it was over.
It was over.
After that. It was over.
Like, what can we buy to make it faster?
Exactly right. Yeah, and we didn't have anybody to kind of guide us in along the way. So I was like, we got to find a way to make this Traxxas, this Stampede faster. So I go and I buy this Castle Creations kit that has I want to say it was like a 6,800 kV motor in it, big monstrous motor. We threw that thing in there, and you couldn't drive it. It was so uncontrollable, you couldn't drive because it was just a little two-wheel drive. It was insane. Then I finally went and bought him a RTR. Again, still didn't have anybody to guide us. I bought him an RTR short course associated,
like a regular SC10 RTR. Yeah,
RTR. We got
which was a great truck.
It was.
I mean, it wasn't aluminum chassis or whatnot, all plastic tub, but yeah.
So we bought that, and the rest was pretty much history from there. We got deep into it. Yeah.
So I mean, when you guys were racing, is like at your highest, like what were you guys doing? Were you doing Super Cups? Did Peyton ever like really get into A scale or?
Yeah, so he actually TQ'd AMS the last year that he ran AMS in the intermediate class.
Nice.
It's actually the open class. He actually TQ'd that. He had got a hard lesson that he learned, so he completely rebuilt the truck before he went out onto the track, and he did not double check the way his endpoints were set and all that kind of stuff. He completely disassembled the truck, put it all back together.
So just put the horn on before turning on the servos and getting them lined up.
He got out there, and he only had about half throttle.
Oh, boy, that sucks.
So, I'm not saying he would have won, but he was pretty dang fast.
Right.
He probably would have had and then he also did extremely well at P&B as well, the very first year that it was at in White Pine. Second, I think, is where he was at. He almost TQ'd that, and he was in warm up and had a dog bone pop out in warm up. And there's no waiting.
No,
you got to go. So he did.
No, that race has zero fucks to give.
Yes.
I mean, you either make it or you don't.
Yes.
It's very grueling.
Yes.
And out of all of race time, I know that's Dave's baby, but that one's the hardest and most grueling for everybody. Everybody.
Yes.
I mean, the crew, the racers, anybody that has anything to do with that place.
Yep.
That's the hardest. And I go back anytime I possibly can. I've missed a couple. But that particular race, I tell people, if you have to choose, it's Wicked Weekend or that one, I would say Wicked, just because it's like the feel and it's got outdoors still. Yeah. But there's nothing like P&B.
No.
And that's I do love about it because it is that original race, and Dave's kicked ass, very special.
That race will chew you up and spit you out.
We good over there? Okay. And I started going there when it was down in Unadilla, which I actually preferred that venue in dirt better.
You like the blowed out.
I did.
Okay.
But now I have that.
Yeah.
So it's okay, that it's not there, because then it would make what I've got at our arena not as special.
Yeah.
But I think when I think Psycho, I think White Pine's too polished off. It's too nice.
Okay.
And then Unadilla was like, you walked in there and you look in the building and it's old and kind of...
It's raw.
Yeah, and you're like, this is Psycho, and there's no outside from the building to the horse stalls. It's still all under the same roof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess because that's where I started going.
Yeah.
And just the way it felt It was more, but it also is not just changed venues. It's evolved into what it is today, like the way that the practices run and stuff like that, and the heats and how the qualifiers are run. It's not the same. You know, it used to be 10-minute quals. You know, used to all different things, but entries and just everything. I mean, I understand evolution, but I really enjoy it. That race that was my first, other than the spring sting at the Brawl or at the Badlands, and maybe a Brawl before I went to Psycho. Like that was my first like cherry. That's what popped my cherry in the big races, and that's why it's like kind of like a have to go to every year if I can. You know, I don't recommend it for everybody but you got to go at least once. You know what I mean?
My most favorite fall brawl that we did. Do you remember the year that we did the split style qualifying? We did a 10-minute, 7-minute, and a 5-minute qualifier. Do you remember the year we did that?
I don't know the year, but I remember it.
That was my most favorite because we did that 10-minute qualifier on a Friday is what we did. And then we ran the 7 and the 5 on a Saturday. And that was my most favorite. And I understand the reason why he doesn't have the extra day, you know, is because of the cost. I mean, that place is not cheap to rent. It's extremely expensive. And then you have to add another day on the higher cost side of it, because setup day you pay one price, and then when the event's going on, you pay a different price.
Sure.
So I get that part of it, but that event was my most favorite because there was a lot of focus that was put in on that 10 minutes. Like people were really stretching it. It's kind of common now to see people, I shouldn't say common, but a lot more people go 10 minutes. But at that track, going 10 minutes because you're on the throttle so much, man, they were leaning them motors.
Yeah, and it still has some slippage too. So it's hard to gauge fuel mileage when you got tire spin.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're at like nationals, when it's outdoor and you got a ton of bite, like last year at A Main, I mean, that thing, you could gauge mileage pretty dang good, you know. And at the fall brawls at the Badlands, you could gauge mileage. I mean, it's always high bite. But when you get it to a place like, you know, PMB or our races that we put on, the Pro-Am or the fall brawl now under the arena, that's tough because those the surfaces are so loose.
Yeah.
You don't really have that that knowledge of only the top of the top understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
On that's Adam Drake. He's the perfectionist on that.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
He's ultimate throttle control.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my most favorite PMB is when we did that. We ran a qualifier on Friday. We started on Thursday at noon with practice. We ran all the way to Friday at noon at practice, and we did a 10-minute qualifier. That was my most favorite one of all the ones that we did.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one.
Speaking of, so doing these kind of like transitioning into what you're doing now, like when did you start doing the race time stuff? When did you?
Yeah, so the last year that was at Unadilla, which if I remember correctly was 2015, was the last year that was at Unadilla. I got a phone call from Dave. He said, "Hey, I'd like to bring you in as part of our team, you know, like for you to sit in with Jimmy." And I wanted to say it was Nick Black that was there as well. There were people in also there with Jimmy as well. He said, "I want you to sit in, do a little announcing type thing, you know." And I'm pretty sure it was 2015. Was last year it was at Unadilla. It might have been 14. I said, "Sure, man. I'm stoked. Love to have it. You know, I'm all on board." So I drove up there and did a little bit of announcing. And Dave really liked, you know, what I did, and he invited me to do a Wicked Weekend, I think in 2015 as well. And I did that one all by myself, and it was like 400 or 500 entries, and the rest is history from there.
Yeah.
With Dave, he was really, really happy and satisfied.
So was that, and then when did you take a break? When did you quit for pay?
2018.
18?
Yep.
Till when?
Yeah. 2020.
2020?
Yeah. Well, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot's happened in, you know, from the time you started till now. Like, what do you think's the biggest change that is either changed the way these events are ran, or, you know, like has made these events so super big, you know, because you've got these 2 or 3 pretty major promoters around the country that can put on these large events. Like what has changed to make these super events?
So the racers' desire to run these big events is what has changed it. You know, I know everybody says club racing, club racing, club racing. Well, it's the racers that want to go to these big promoted events, you know, and I understand the promoters are the ones that are putting them on, but it's the racers that's driving it. When racers stop going to these big events, that's when you see these big events will start slowing down. But everybody likes the big promoted events.
Right.
That's why you see.
What do you think makes it so desirable though? Like you hear the stories. I mean, I hear it. I've probably been part of some of the conversations at some point. You go to these places, you get very little run time, spend more money, and then you either, are you more upset? Do people talk bad because they have a bad event, or do they talk bad because they don't like it because of the runtime? And then when they get more runtime, are they like, dude, that was just too much? Yep. Hey, what is it about because I race. Mm-hmm. I love racers. I kind of feel like I'm one with the racer. Most people that are in this business raced at one point. Not many people can get away with being a promoter and just taking people's money and not giving back or being part of it. Yeah. But what is it that you said the perfect thing of why promoters will keep doing it until people stop coming. Yes. And if it keeps getting bigger, they're not going to change the way they're doing it. So, but why do people want to go to DNC, Silver State, Psycho, Wicked, Fall Brawl, these big 500 plus entries, and beat themselves over the head? Is it because of the amount of people that are there? Is it because of the pros are all there and they feel like they're part of it? Like, what is it?
So I'm a firm believer that racers, as far as the non-pros, the Joes, they don't care if the pros are there or not. Yeah, they think it's kind of cool, but they really don't care. Prime example, 460 some odd entries this past weekend in Tennessee. No pros were there. It's all about being able to spend time with their friends, people that they don't get to see regularly, or they all get together, get an Airbnb, they all hang out, stuff like that. It's no different from whenever I raced go-karts back in the 80s. Yeah. It was kind of the same thing. It was all a big traveling circuit. We just all followed around where our friends were going. It is really all it was. It wasn't because, there was a Florida Karting Association title on the end. Yeah, sure, that was cool. Or a Georgia Karting Association championship. It was all because that's what all of our friends were doing. That's the only reason. It was a big group of us. We would go around in Florida that we all race together, and, hey, we're going to get up this track this weekend, even on the club racing level, which we did call it back then, Saturday night racing. Let's go down to Leesburg. Let's go to McClenny. Let's go to Maxville. Let's go over, here and there. We would just go all over the place, and it was a big traveling group is what it was, and it's no different here. Yeah. You look at the people here just this weekend, I guarantee you there are people that came together like Van Air and Simmons. I guarantee you they came together. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think what it comes down to is the camaraderie and being able to, I mean, let's face it, most of the time it's a party for most people. Yeah. And there's the people that take it serious, and those people are either trying to make it or already have made it and have to do it as, have to keep that clean image until they're off the clock. Yeah. So, I think you're right. I think it's more like a gathering than it is like the race side. And when a promoter gets it right and people start gathering, it only grows. Absolutely. So unless a promoter, and there are some that have probably done this in the past, unless you screw over the racers, as long as you put it on, let people know about it, and it's not on a weekend that's going to compete with another big event already that's established, you're probably going to be all right. But that so brings up the whole other point. Like, are we at a point now where there's too many big races?
Until the racer says yes, no, if that makes sense. Until the racer says, okay, this is too many, then no.
But does it come to a point where there's so many big races that tracks start falling off, and then you find that racers start going away because they can't travel as far on a weekly basis? Like, maybe we haven't reached that point. I'm just thinking like, okay, we're on a high, things are going this up and to the right, but when it gets up to the right, where does it fall off? Because unless you're just constantly bringing new people in, it won't just keep staying up to the right. There's going to come a fallout when there's too many big races, so people have to choose of going to local tracks. Local tracks start closing, so then they don't get to race when they can't go to a big race.
Right.
Then they only get to race once every couple months because that's all they can travel to spend the money to go to these big races. Yeah. So, like, I mean, the cycle's going to hit. I don't know when it's going to be because I'm involved in the cycle. Like, I have tracks. I have a couple races that are, covered guaranteed A scale races.
So let's say, you're talking about the cycle. So you look at the 8 scale. 8 scale has been booming for a great number of years now. They've been growth. But at the same time, where is the decline? Are we actually adding this many more racers, or are we declining somewhere else? Well, I throw in the decline side of it. Look at the 10 scale side.
Yep.
10 scale on the national side of it has seen a decline. I know in Florida it was a massive decline and huge growth on the 8 scale side. So I think economy has a little bit to do with that, as far as some people have more money in their pocket, so 8 scale is a lot more money to run. They're like, but that's what all my buddies are doing. I have more fun with that. There's a lot less rules in the 8 scale side of things, where I don't have to spend a bunch of money to be competitive on the stock side. I can go out and buy an 8 scale buggy, have the same, 1900 kV motor and go compete. Everybody's on the same level playing field. I can get all the boost I want, do whatever it is I want to do. So it's kind of evens the playing field on that aspect. And so people like that part of it. But as far as the growth side of it, I think we're already seeing on the 10 scale side. You see a decline in the number of off-road 10 scale tracks. You also have a split as well with the carpet that has divided the 10 scale. It's really split. There's not a lot of people that specifically will run just carpet or just 10 scale. It's really a mix of everybody, but carpet is the way that it's going. So I think those original 10 scale racers that were hardcore dirt have moved over to 8 scale. So I think that's where you see the decline on the 10 scale side, because 10 scale is going little bit of a different direction and pushing harder on the high bike surfaces with carpet and AstroTurf and seal tracks and all that. The old school outdoor 10 scale track is dying.
Outdoor 10 scale for sure is dying. Yeah. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say indoor 10 scale dirt off-road is dying. I mean, there are a few OG tracks, and I kind of after 10 years feel like I'm part of that, because we're one of the there's a bunch of smaller tracks. There's a few bigger tracks. I mean, you got the Plex who can run 8 scale and 10 scale. Yep. You've got SDRC in California, Rainman. You got 3 or 4 California tracks, 1 or 2 Northwest, a few Midwest, a couple Northeast, a few Southeast, and a couple. There's probably 20 dirt off-road tracks in the country. Maybe. I mean, I don't do my research, but
there's probably more than that. But on the big scale of things that are heavily active,
we're not seeing many dirt off-road tracks open.
Yeah, no, you don't.
10 scale. We're seeing more carpet tracks open.
Yeah.
And I think, I've never been a carpet guy. I've never even run it, so I can't speak to how fun it is or whatever. I've just always been a dirt guy. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do it, or, everything's situational. Mm-hmm. I've been very, very lucky in my 10 years at this specific building that we were allowed to put dirt in here. A lot of places won't allow that.
Yeah.
And carpet also is a lot easier to maintain. I mean, yes, you have to vacuum it, and you still have to build jumps and sections when you're doing, layouts. It's not like that's easy, but once you've got it figured out, or you store them, I mean, you can change stuff up. Yep. Fairly simple. It's labor intensive to do the dirt stuff, very labor intensive. And everything requires work. So I'm not trying to discount the carpet or turf stuff at all.
Here's a downfall, though, that I'll say about high bike and carpet tracks. And one of the reasons why I think you see a decline in the 10 scale. Your margin of error that you have, the faster the speeds and the more traction you have, the more narrow your window is for your margin of error. So when you do make those mistakes and you're off just by a millisecond from turning into a corner, braking too late, braking too soon, you're getting run over, you're into a pipe, you're into a wall, there's no forgiveness, especially on carpet, for that kind of stuff. Your speeds are so high, and you have failures with breakages and stuff like that. And I think it discourages people a little bit. It intimidates them some. Like when you're racing on that surface, it's full bore. It's constant full bore. Lap times are insanely fast. So your margin of error and your skill level as far as the climb is very steep and very tough.
But on the flip side of that, it's much easier to get somebody to feel comfortable quicker on carpet than dirt.
Right, because your surfaces don't change.
Right, you're instantly getting traction.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about, really tire prepping and what tires to choose. You're pretty much on one kind of tire all the time.
You can go out on a kit setup with a new set of tires and be competitive. You just got to learn the skill.
Right. Now you can just practice, and know that you're going to be able to not have to do. It's not full sail changes from track to track if you're going carpet to carpet. Whereas dirt, you could go to one place that's super high bite, like my track gets on a regular basis, to a track that is very hard to get bite and fight it. And, so you don't get that much with carpet. I did hear and there has been some rumbling, especially in the on-road world, that like the carpet's been like not as good lately, the newer stuff. That's beyond my, knowledge, because I'm not into that side of the world right now. But in the grand scheme of things, it's easier to just get involved in carpet. Like we rent a lot of vehicles on the track during the week and stuff. And I'm sure like if you come in at 10:30 in the morning when we open, the track's green and you're rent a slash and you're squiggling all over the place, and they probably love it. Yeah. But like for a person that's trying to learn, if they come in at 10:30 in the morning, now they have to. It's totally different than when they race on Wednesday nights where the track's got bite and a lot of people are running on it, and it's harder to practice because it's not the same as it is every day like it would be on carpet. You can come in at 1 in the afternoon or 10 in the morning or 5 at night in carpet, and it's pretty much the same.
Yep.
Within a little bit of humidity, whatever, depending on how it is. But dirt, the way we take care of our track, it progresses through the day. We water it heavy every night. So come morning time, it sucks. So if you want to practice all day at our place, it's going to take you a little bit of time before it's
comes around.
Right.
I understand.
But it's also not a bad thing because the racer is able to learn different setup on how to make it better. Yeah. So I don't know what the 10 scale situations
it's divided. You look at, I'm going to bring up Team Associated. They build 2 different 10 scale car kits. So it just lets you know how much it's divided there. They have a carpet car, they have a dirt car. Yeah. So it's divided, it's evolving, it's changing, it's going over to high bite and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think a lot of that is what has driven the crazy growth on the 10 scale side of it. You look at on-road hasn't seen any growth in years as a whole. You got hot spots here and there, but on-road as a whole, you have not seen any real growth in it. They don't really have an entry-level class anymore. They kind of were starting hitting on something whenever they had those little semi-trucks. When they were running those for a while, they were starting to hit on some entry-level stuff there. But the group of racers that were so small were so experienced, well, for the new guy jumping in, he was just out to lunch. Yeah.
The on-road and oval are very similar in the fact that because I'm an oval guy, always was, and maybe in the future will be again, but they're their own worst enemy. You're like you said, they're so experienced and they'll help somebody until the point where they're even close to as quick as they are. Where in off-road, you can get 99.9% of the same thing as anybody else. Yep. Because it's all driver, not as much car in the off-road stuff. Of course, you got to be close. Tires got to be right. Shock oils, pistons, springs got to be right. Diffs got to be right. But no one's willing to. No one's trying to juke you out of that because they know that they can beat you driving until you get to that point where you're close. But they'll still give it to you. I think that's why we're seeing such great competition right now. Those guys share a lot and they work together pretty well, even off-brand. mostly because a lot of guys are on the same tire program, so they know exactly. And we, let's be honest, tires are 99% of the game anymore.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're on, if you're a J Concept guy, all the top J Concept guys, I mean, it's almost everybody. If Dakota's running Falcons or Reflex, then I guarantee you Mayfield's also running them, and so is Spencer, and the very few of them will go off to try to beat them on something different. Which that's why I think the competition is so freaking great right now. It is, in the A scale world, like the best I've ever seen in America. On the global level, I think it's still also the best it's ever been. Like these guys, there's so many young guns, and even some of these veterans that, I'm looking forward to seeing the next couple worlds with A scale for sure. I don't know what's going to happen this year. I keep hearing mixed stories as far as worlds goes. Like some people are like, well, I'm going, and some people are like, I'm not going. Some people are, I don't want to go. Everyone's thinking Argentina all over again. So, I did
a little bit of research because we were, as far as the elite goes, we were we were in the discussion about doing some broadcast stuff there and stuff like that. No thanks, I'm good. We were asking about doing some stuff there, and I was doing some research on it and where that race is being held at. I even reached out to Keenan, talked to him a little bit too. It's really not a bad area. It's really not.
They're not worried about the area. Yeah. They're worried about getting into the country and not getting fucked.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Argentina race, Argentina Worlds keeps coming up from everybody I talk to. And I think what needs to happen is everybody needs to band together as a U.S. group, try to work on getting in on the same flight or something, or close to, or maybe only a couple flights, and getting people to help them get in without any problem. Having like a chaperone, a liaison that gets them in, because they're worried about getting just straight butt fucked by the government.
Like they did with Argentina.
Taxes or duties on their stuff they're bringing in, or losing it, getting it stolen by the... So that's what they're really worried about. Because we have a Brazilian guy that races in South Carolina. He races down in Somerville, and he's like, dude, the track's awesome, and it's not in a dangerous area. Like, he's told me it's beautiful. But he also said it wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody to help you get everything in. So I think more than anything, that's what it is.
I understand.
Now, crime-wise, I mean, when we were in Spain last year, I think Walker Spinrad said it the best. It looked like we were in a Call of Duty map. When you drove into where their track was.
Okay.
But the track is one of the most amazing facilities in the world.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
And those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were, I mean, the nicest people. The country is amazing. I had a fantastic time. But for about 10 minutes, when you get real close to the track and drive through this city, like, you're looking and a sniper could be up there. It's what you think. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't like that. But it was run down. It looked like it could have been, a barrio or something that you might be a little worried about if you didn't know where you're at.
Yeah.
So
like a borderline third world country is what kind of like you were going.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like these guys aren't used to stuff like that. If they know it's safe, I think they'll be fine. But the big thing is, it's like, can all the manufacturers talk and like, hey, let's all take, Delta flight, whatever, on this day, and let's all go in together. All of us pitch in on a couple liaisons or someone that's going to, get us in, some kind of customs broker, and get us in without any hassle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's what they're doing. I haven't talked to anybody yet. I need to talk to, our side on the S-Works, kind of find out who's doing what and what's going on. I would hate to see a Worlds happen and somebody win it, and not everyone be there. I want to see right now with the drivers that are racing, the youth and a little bit of the older that are, don't have very many years left in them. I want to see these guys go at it. Absolutely. I mean, they're at the top of their game. Yeah. So there's no time to waste. This isn't an old man sport. This is a young man sport. If you're 35, 40, you're on your way out.
Yeah.
And there's a couple badasses.
Yes, I know it. You know, nothing I don't think would prove or please most Americans to see. You know, you talk about some of them in their 40s on their way out. You know, Mayfield's career is still hot, but
when's it not?
Yes,
you know, when's it done?
Like,
you know,
how quickly does it go downhill? You know, once he reaches that point, and I think everybody would love to see him. You know, pull off an 8-scale Worlds win.
Yeah,
you know,
it's the only one he's not got.
Yeah, you know, he's arguably probably the best racer that's ever come out of the U.S. You know, I'm not saying he's the best, but he's definitely in the conversation of top 3 and things like that. But to have that crowning achievement, you know, the same way with Dale Earnhardt and Daytona 500, you know, it just put that exclamation point on the man's career.
Yeah, I would go, you know, as a fan of a big fan of a few of these guys, but Mayfield being one of them. If he doesn't win a world, it's kind of like, I think he quits knowing he accomplished a ton, but quits knowing that he didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one. There's no bigger title in our industry, you know, so and he can do it. With bad luck in years past, he's not gotten it when he could have. Like, he had speed, he's had the talent.
Yeah.
You know, but we could say that about a couple guys. Dakota, we could say that, you know, but then you've got these new kids, Fuller and Rose, and freaking, you know, these techno kids that Van Dalen's and freaking Bourdon, like these kids that are coming up.
Yeah,
you know, Camden Lime, you know, they're insane. V, you know,
well, that's it, and it's funny that you mentioned that. You know, a little over a year ago, a conversation was had about, well, who's going to replace these guys? Who's going to replace, you know, Mayfield? Who's going to replace Tebow? And I'm thinking to myself, like, is people not watching the racing that I'm watching?
Right.
Like, what hole are you in?
They might not have won yet, but they're finishing top 5.
Insanely fast. The Fullers, and you talk about Brandon Rose and all that. Like, y'all must be not watching the same things I am.
Yeah.
You know, because them guys are really starting to turn it on, and now they're at those levels. You know, they are legitimate competition from the moment the tone sounds until the last bell goes off.
Yeah.
They are there all the way through.
I think we're going to see a lot of mixed winners this year. You know, last year was kind of the Dakota Mayfield show in the U.S. I think this year it's not going to be that. I think you're going to see 5 or 6 guys win on a regular basis. Yeah. So you got, you know, race time. Was there 4 race time events?
Yes.
So there's 4 race time events, 2 dirt events if you don't count the Lone Star Challenge, 3 with that. Yeah. I believe there's going to be what's the race that Live RC puts on in Oklahoma? Visions race. Are they doing that again this year? I heard they are, but I don't know yet. I mean, it's not been advertised. You got nationals. You've got Mugen Challenge. I would, you know, hoping that Fall Brawl. You know, there's going to be 10 national size A-scale races minimum this year that all of them, most of them, if not all of them, are going to be at. And I think we see, my guess is 5 different winners out of at least of those 10. Yeah. That's my guess.
I mean, you know, a huge underdog at SIC, you look at Brandon Rose. So Brandon Rose has had moments of stardom in qualifying and things like that, and fighting and clawing his way to the front and stuff like that. Didn't have, you know, just gremlins just bite him and things like that. But then this past year at SIC, you know, nothing could have hit and worked on all cylinders any better. Yeah. That car was lights out. From the moment that tone went off, you could tell that car was on another level.
I think for him, though, he had one missing piece of his puzzle, and that was tires. And he's, you know, so he went from one tire to the next, changed nothing else on his program, and can compete. Yeah. And that, I'm not talking bad about the tire brand that anybody's on. Yeah. It's hard because right now J Concepts has really got good product. Yeah. But you know, even Camden Lime in that same weekend on a different brand on Hot Race. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just wonder, and I'm not suggesting he should, because he's well taken care of and and whatever. But in my mind, I wonder, like, where's Camden Lime if he was on that same tire? Yeah. You know, and that's, I I love the parity of tire brands and car brands and engines. Like that's important. We need competition. Do I believe we need as many of these off brands coming in as possible? Probably not. And it's not because of competition. I'm full of competition. I just hate seeing people that have not been in this industry clawing and fighting come in and like take market share because they're just giving shit away or whatever. But that's a different story. But I just, I love seeing the parity, but you see these fast kids and then you're like, I wonder what he could have done if he was on the same thing as Dakota or on the same thing as Mayfield. And then you see Brandon Rose get on the same thing.
And take it to the next level.
There, and then boom. That was the missing link. Now, of course, you can't make mistakes. You've got to be consistent. Your equipment's got to be right. You can't just go out there and show up and throw a different set of tires on there and win. Yeah. I don't think, but not at that level. Yeah. But I feel like, you see these kids and they're so fast. Like Camden can throw a hot lap almost at any race that he goes to.
Well, that kind of leads me into where I was going to say. You look at people that are on a tire that may not be A+, which means that they're having to overdrive the car a little bit to be able to keep the pace that's needed or to hold the lead. So they're driving outside of the car's ability because of, a lack of grip or whatever it may be, forward bite, side bite, whatever it may be. They're missing something, so they're driving outside the car's ability. Well, that's where the failures come in at, because then they make a mistake and then they smack a pipe, smack a wall, smack another car, whatever it may be. And that I think sometimes that they have to drive outside of their comfort zone to be able to keep that pace because they're struggling, because they may be missing one little small thing. And tires is a big one. It's huge. You start a race and the car feels one way. By the time you get to the end of the run, it's a totally different feel. As diffs get hot, tires are gripping a little bit different. It's so different in the way a 30-minute, 45-minute main straight may shake down. But going back to the JC tires, they are right now, they have the mold, the tread pattern, the compound for the race time events. They have got it down pat.
Yeah.
They have got it figured out. The other teams other manufacturers are catching up, but in my opinion, they still got a little ways to go before they get there.
Well, Lucas and I call it printing money. Mm-hmm. Green Reflex is printing money, and it's so hard to get. Yeah. Like I text Allison or email Allison. It's like I've always got 50 or 100 sets of those on back order. Mm-hmm. We got 40. Like we don't get 100 when we have 100 on back order, and and I hope nobody does. Like if they get 1,000 sets in and they've got 15, 20 dealers wanting 100, they can only give so much. Yep. I hope everyone's getting, but whole nother, it's like, why aren't 10 containers coming instead of one? When you've got that good of a product. And I don't know their business. It's none of my business, but it's printing money, man. Those their team's huge. People, because their team's so huge, everybody wants it. But yeah, these kids, Mason and Caden. I mean, what incredible drivers! And I'm lucky that we scored them with S-Works. But I mean, just SIC, perfect example. Kid never even drove the car.
No.
SIC literally was break-in day.
It was green as
break-in day. They didn't even test them. Yeah. Like we talked, when I was talking to Mike, he says, we've looked at a couple cars and we know the S-Works car is good by watching it.
Yeah.
And
Camden's proved that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys have.
Yeah.
Joe and freaking, Canas and Boots, like the car's good. But they never even got a chance to break them in.
Yeah.
Never tested someone else's car.
What was he in the C sort after the first round of qualifying, if I remember correctly?
They were breaking the car in.
Yeah. Like in the C sort. He was like way back there. And then he just
ended up second in one and fifth in another or something like that. Mason did. But it just, those kids on that J Concept program, throw on make sure your setup's drivable. Mm-hmm. Throw on a set of those Green Reflex or, whatever that same pin is with the groove or whatever, the Falcons, the dirt bites, whatever they're doing now, and they're fast.
Yep.
And then as long as the kid can control the car and they're, a lot of these kids don't do video games anymore. I'm finding out they're doing video games less, but I always attribute these gamer kids are so good. The hand-eye coordination and all that stuff. So I don't know where it's going, but I just hope that these kids have a long time to win a world championship. Really want to see a Mayfield and a Dakota and some of these older guys that are on their way, maybe not full, we're watching people retire. Last year we had three guys retire.
I still can't believe that Testament is out.
Yeah.
I just can't wrap my head around that part of it.
Yeah.
How somebody as young as he is, still talented, and now he's out. But is manufacturers seeing the writing on the wall? Well, let's invest money in this youth that's coming up, because there's going to be another wave that's going to be moving out of it here soon.
Yeah.
So we need to invest.
It's just like anything else, football, anything. Like, do you hold on to a guy until the business side? The business side's ruthless.
Yeah.
But the business shift, we are seeing that in the model of RC. Everyone's expecting paychecks, and paychecks aren't coming as much as they used to.
No.
You're going to have to be one of the hardest working dudes to even get considered anymore.
You better be spending some serious time at the racetrack working on
this is a job now.
Yeah.
Like this, if you're one of the paid people and it's getting fewer and fewer, this is a 5-6 day a week job.
Yes.
Not for fun anymore.
No.
You're not getting paid because you go and do good. You're getting paid because you're at a track every day. You're rebuilding cars every day. Like we talked about earlier, you're 40 weeks a year. You're only home 2 days and gone 5. These guys are ruthless.
It's tough.
I'm kind of glad I'm not talented enough.
Yeah.
Because it's, in my opinion, if you got a family, that's really no way to live. But it's a fun way of making a living, right? I mean, let's face it.
It's for people that are looking on the outside in, it's like you're living the dream. But people also don't understand that, okay, you may think I'm living the dream, and in a way I kind of am, as far as people that do all the traveling, but it's a huge amount of work, man. It's tough. You're up early, you're up late. You're nonstop going, and always looking for that competitive edge. And it's hard. You can never stop searching for it. Doesn't matter how many races you win, just like Finn and TLR, they really kicked a lot of butt last year, but they are constantly looking for that next competitive edge, because they know the other teams are as well. They're going to catch up. They're going to be there on point. For instance, S-Works, J Concepts, and Brandon Rose. That turned a lot of heads whenever he won at SIC.
Yeah.
Same thing whenever the very first race at Tyler Jones, when he hit the track with that Sparko.
Yeah, that was at Florida, or Georgia, North Georgia.
Yeah, or Georgia Pizza, whichever it was.
And he won that eBay race.
He dominated.
Yeah.
It turned a lot of heads. You're like, well, dang, the car's something else. So it turned a lot of heads on that, and how quickly that Sparko has gained traction, and things like that. So people pay attention, and they understand that, competitive edge is something that's very quickly lost in things. Manufacturers come out with kits about every 3 years when it comes to the 8 scale side of it, which is not a lot of life out of the amount of R&D that they're putting into these things.
Right.
So they're constantly, continuously searching.
Yeah.
Especially when they're only getting about 3 years of life out of it.
Yeah. I mean, molds aren't cheap.
No.
And, like you said, R&D, I mean, that's what these guys are doing all the time.
All the time.
They're cutting stuff, they're dremeling, they're fitting things, that they're moving stuff around.
Yep.
And you're never going to, everyone wants what the pros have, but you can't drive like the pro. So drive what the production car is, put the right setup on it, learn to drive it like that type of situation. If you walk up to Joe Bornhorst right now and he tells you, well, this is what I'm doing, if you go do that to your car, there's a fat chance you're not going to be able to pick up any time with it. It might make your car drive a little better, and that's what our hopes are. Anytime that those guys are working,
comfort. But
the production car is the polished off version, supposed to be, of what they worked on for a whole year or more. And a lot of people don't. They always want what the pros are running, but what they need to do is start with that baseline and get it comfortable, with the car they're running.
Yeah, so that's something that I am a huge stickler against. You know, I can't tell you how many times, I put Spencer Ribkin's setup on my car, put this setup, Brian Mayfield setup on my car. I was like, do you drive like them? Do you have their skills?
Yeah.
You need to put
how close are you to their hot lap?
Yeah, you need to put the kit setup on your car and build from there. I'm not saying that there's not things on there that you cannot adjust and tune that's similar to theirs, but you don't drive like them.
Yeah.
You don't need to be running the same thing. You need to start at the kit setup and then you need to adjust from there, because the skill levels that them guys have, it's a whole different ball game.
I agree.
You know,
I tell a lot of people when they message me like, "Hey, can you get me this guy's setup or something through the S-Works team?" And then we have pretty good communication through our social media and in our group or whatnot. But in the same time, there's stuff that doesn't get up in time, and someone's going to a race the next week, whatever, they want to try it. And I always tell them, like, here's this to try, or, you know, here it is. Mm-hmm. But remember, drive like, you know, make changes based on how it feels to you, not because you want to. And if you are going to do somebody's setup, excuse me, you have to go 100%, or it means nothing.
Yes.
You know, you can't be like, I'm going to try his diff fluids.
Yep.
Because your pistons and shock oils are the way you like it, but I'm just going to try his diff fluid setup.
I don't have those springs, but I got something that's similar, so I'm going to put that on there. Oh, wait a minute.
Right.
So I've only got, 6-hole springs instead of 8-hole springs, but I'll just make the 6 holes a little bit bigger, and it'll be about the same. No,
it's like wholesale, like from front to back or nothing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking motor and speed control and stuff. Yeah. I mean, there are some, placement's a big thing, and maybe weight of battery, like those things do matter. But like, if you aren't from front to back the same, what are we doing? Like,
exactly right.
Take that setup sheet and copy it. Yeah. Every pill, every arm needs to be dremeled or whatever. Like, it cannot be anything different because you might as well just start it from, like you said, the kit setup and just work on it as you feel what it needs, where it needs it. And that's the biggest problem. You can give a guy a setup sheet.
Something that I found out in my novice class that I have, that I've started with my series. So when I give them the car, I give them the manual as well.
That's a good idea, though.
Do you know how many? I've walked around several times and just looked, on practice day, who's doing what. All you see is the charger, the car, and that's it. Everything that was in the bag is still sitting there. Nothing's been opened. And in the back of that associated, it tells you these adjustments that you can make for these different things. But has anybody even bothered to open up the car to read the manual to read it? Nope. Not at all.
Wonder if you were to do a QR code and put Associated's cheat sheets app, to download their app. Or any of them, because there's a few of those apps that they would try that.
So I'm going to actually, this next race, I'm actually going to I'm going to photocopy that one page.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hand it to them, and I'm going to say, hey, this is actually in the manual, but I want you to take this sheet of paper and I want you to read over it because you're going to learn something about setup.
That's smart.
Yeah. I'm actually hand it to you. I'm not going to flip the page. I'm actually going to hand you this. I'm going to photocopy it. I'm going to show it to you. Learn about the car, make these adjustments. Oh, is the car pushing? Is it not rotating enough? You got all these adjustments that are on the car that you can make to make the car drive a little better, just in very basic setup mode. Do that. Make the car better for yourself. Everybody drives a little bit different. Some people like to come into the corner really, really hard. Some of them like to come in really soft and out hard. It just a bunch of different ways that you can set the car that's better for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what the RC Pro-Am's all about.
Yeah.
Is putting somebody with them that can give them that knowledge, right? And so last year being the first year, that my intentions were to marry 3 different levels of racers: sportsman, intermediate, and pro. And because the pro had a lot to gain from it, to be the tutor, and I think for the most part it helped.
Oh, absolutely.
But this year, and we'll talk more as we go, but I want to take it to a whole new level. But the fact of the matter is, most of these races, if not all, these guys have their paychecks on the line. I mean, yes, they get a paycheck, but like if they want to really make money, they have to win or they have to finish top 3. But winning is what pays.
TQ and win. TQ
yeah,
win.
That's what pays.
Yep.
You get a few bucks for second, third, fourth, fifth, sometimes just second, third. But winning is what pays. So if you're not paying attention to that, but I want to see, that was the whole proof of concept. Pros helping the Joes so that they can get paid. If they don't do well, if the Joes don't do well, the pros don't get paid.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, when it was finally figured out, and I think that's why this year is going to be so much better because the pros are going to be able to understand how it worked and not be so kind of like clueless of how we're doing it. I think at the end of the day, that concept's going to really help younger drivers, or it doesn't matter age, but novicer to intermediate style drivers learn more about their stuff because they're not going to be shy. They're going to be able to talk to these people. And I want to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that if you go up and ask Mayfield, Dakota, Spencer Rivkin, they're going to tell you what to do or try to help you. But so many people are just so nervous or hesitant to break up what they're, because they know they're trying to win.
Yeah.
You know, no one wants to go and interrupt them from what they're doing. But if it becomes the decision to make more money for them and in their best interest, they're going to be, I'm hoping, hovering.
It worked the first year. I mean, the RC Pro-Am drivers, the pro drivers, I mean, I watched several of them in the 30-minute Nitro Buggy main pitted for their driver. You know, you don't typically see that a whole lot, but they were right there either with the pit guy or they were doing the pitting themselves. They were watching their cars during warm-up. I've seen a couple of them make some changes during the warm-up process. They tightened up some springs, loosened up some springs, changed some tire setups and stuff like that. Like, it worked. And to see that interaction was really, really good. And to see those sportsman drivers improve was really awesome, you know, as well. If they missed out on the Pro-Am last year, they missed out on a hell of an event. When we had the draft, that was so much fun.
The draft's going to be better this year.
I mean, well,
the draft's going to be better.
You know, it was all done off of a whim. You know, we didn't really have any true plans other than some very basic things of how we're going to do. But to watch those pro drivers sitting over there and looking at lap times and things like that from practice and stuff, because there really wasn't any racing that was done prior. So they really had to study, and watching them go through that was just awesome. I loved it.
I talked to Danny today, and Danny was asking me about the Pro-Am. He said, do you want me to like figure out like a way to put points on the screen and stuff? I was like, hell yeah, for sure. You know, like that is definitely what I want because I want people watching it to experience what we're doing. But I also said to Danny, I was like, we need to compile a way, and this doesn't need to be necessarily like, not this year maybe, but like not necessarily the visible to the people watching the draft happen. But I want to compile stat sheets to hand out to all the pros so that they can decide, you know, by some stats from like Pro-Am last year and Fall Brawl, base everything off of racing at that arena and that surface and people that have come and supported those events and get everyone's name on there to pick based off of like average finish or, you know, how they did it last year's Pro-Am or how they did it Fall Brawl, whatever. You know, so that way, like they can make a educated decision, and then also they can also see stuff from practice. You know, they can also see the practice sheets, and I want to treat it more like an NFL draft. So that was the one thing I wanted. You know, and we can talk about it now. Is I want to put people on the clock. I want it to be commissioner style reading off of who's who got drafted. Okay. Hopefully we're not just, I think, did we have 10 last year? We might have had.
I think we did.
10.
I think we did.
I want 15, 20.
Yeah.
I want it to where some of the teams don't even, some people don't make it into mains.
Yeah.
Like it'd be nice to have 20. If we put 15 in, at some point, 5 people, and maybe not in all 3, but 5 people aren't making it into a main. To like really want it to be where points are important.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know that are watching this, because we have a lot of people that listen that aren't from the East Coast, the sportsman drivers in nitro buggy score more points than the pros do.
Yes.
So that's why
it's weighted.
And that's why the pros are so important to help them, because for the pros to get the paycheck at the end, because the Joes don't get paid, for the pros to get the paycheck, the Joes have to do good.
Yep.
So, the sportsman is weighted the heaviest, intermediate's weighted the middle, and pro is weighted the least amount. The pros finish is the least amount of what happens at the end of the day. So what we want to see is pros picking who they think's the best sportsman, the best, and then we can break out. You can break out so we don't have any sandbaggers and sportsmen that should be an intermediate, or any intermediates that should be in pro. Figure out that breakout, so that way we're not getting these mega teams.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because I want Friday night to be a show. I want Friday night to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we catered it last year.
Yep.
People had a good time. I mean, everyone that came up to me was like, that was fun.
It was.
We had good food. We laughed.
Yeah, it lasted maybe an hour, if I remember right, maybe an hour and a half. It didn't last very long, but it was, again, like I said, we were just kind of winging it. We just didn't have I ain't gonna say we had a plan, because we did. We knew the basics of it, but
it's going to be better this year.
Never done it before.
No.
Neither one of us have, but we all put it together very nice. All of the racers really enjoyed it, and then to watch it all come together during the weekend of racing, when qualifying started, there were pros that were right there right from the get-go. Qualifier number 1, they were right there with their Joes, helping them out, cheering them on. You see them in the pits working on cars together and stuff like that. You see people that start building some relationships that typically may not.
Yeah.
Because another good thing about it is that you may have a Cole Ogden HB driver over here helping out a Lance McDonald techno driver.
Yeah.
And then you've got an associated Brent Densford intermediate driver.
Right.
You got all brands all mixed in together.
Exactly.
And they're all working towards a common goal of improving.
Yeah. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if there was like a HB had all three. But that guy's not going to pick who he thinks not going to help him.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really comes down to who's going to help him make money at the end, because we do pay out in nitro buggy and e-buggy this last year, and that's how we're going to keep it going moving forward. But only to the pros.
Yeah.
Like the Joes get prizes and stuff for where they finish top 3, but the pros have a paycheck on the line, so that, obviously I'd love to get it on a contingency plan for all the manufacturers at some point. But right now we're paying the contingency by paying a check to these guys for how they finish. So
and if I remember right, it wasn't a little small.
It was
amount of money.
$1,500 to win.
It was pretty big.
Yeah, it's 1,500, 750, and 500.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3 in 2 different classes, and nobody won both. The top guys in e-buggy and nitro buggy weren't the same team owners. You can be the team owner in both classes if you're a pro. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I had to get through this race, and Nationals is coming up in a month, but I'm going to start getting the flyer done and that out real soon, because I really want the manufacturers to get behind this. If anything, it really benefits them to have their pros here getting involved with the Joes. A guy that runs brand X, if brand A helps him and he really likes the guy, he might buy brand A.
Oh yeah.
And they have to understand we're trying to bridge that gap. This is a race. That event is built to bridge a gap that in a lot of places is hard to do. So I'm really hoping we can turn it into like a Friday night spectacle.
Yeah.
Saturday is like just intense qualifiers, and mains, everyone's just like, crossing fingers and gritting teeth. I'm really looking forward to this year.
Yeah, we need to try to figure out a way on the broadcast, to identify our draftees and teams. It's going to be, I don't know if there's a way to do it in live time, but we need to figure out a way to identify those.
Maybe we can do some custom wing decals or some windshield decals. I don't know. I mean, that's a good idea. We can think of a way to like definitely identify them somehow, like digitally on the broadcast, but also visually on the cars that they're part of the Pro-Am event, you know, because obviously, and that's one thing we didn't talk about, we only can have as many Pro-Am, intermediate, and sportsman drivers as we do pros.
Right.
So pros, it's free. That's another thing. This is free. Mm-hmm. You don't have to pay anything extra other than your entry fee to be part of this. It's just a matter of you getting drafted. Mm-hmm. Like you can politic, you can, your practice means something at this race. Mm-hmm. Going out there and practicing means something because you have pros watching you. And if you're good, you might get picked. And if you get picked, not only are you getting helped, but you could win prizes.
Did we do the block practice at any of the events? I don't remember if we did or not. Yeah, we did. We did it at Pro-Am. We did block practice.
We did block practice, and we did it at Fall Brawl as well.
Okay. Yeah, so we're going to make sure we continue that. So
yeah, and that's good because the pros can then pay attention to the blocks.
Yeah. So we're going to have to make sure that we do that. Yeah,
absolutely. What's going on with FRCC, man? Like that's kind of like that's grown into a beast, dude.
It's a monster.
Yeah. So you've had all these great years of A scale.
Yeah.
Like 3-4 good years. 3 years. Yeah. And then so this year you've instituted a new 10 scale FRCC. So tell me more about what's going on down there.
Yeah. So just a quick recap of the 8 scale side. We attempt to limit, but the request is insane to run the 8 scale. If I was to just open it up, it'd have 400 entries. There's no doubt in my mind.
These are one-day events, so got to keep that in mind.
Friday is practice. It's optional, and Saturday we begin at 8 o'clock in the morning. We usually finish up about 11 o'clock to midnight is when we finish up every time. But right now we're running 300 entries every race. I just opened up my 3rd round for the 2024 season, and it's sitting, last time I looked, it's 310 entries right now. So it's basically sold out once again. While I've been at this event, I've not had a chance to really work it a whole lot, but it's pretty much sold out once again. I only allow racers to enter in 2 classes. They're not allowed to run any more than 2. As far as the individual drivers, I just want to explain how big this is. So I seen a post that Babcock had posted up about DNC. They had like right at 580 entries, 600 entries, somewhere right around there. They had 188 individual drivers at that time. At my first round at Dean's All Out, I had 187 individual drivers. So that puts it into perspective about how many individual people there are in the state of Florida that are running the series. But we have people that are coming from Georgia, people that are coming from Alabama, and entries are selling out. The first round sold out in 90 seconds. The second one sold out in 2.5 minutes. This one was pretty much full in the first 15, 20 minutes. It was for the 3rd round. So it's carrying a tremendous amount of momentum that people are wanting to run and things like that. The 8 scale is insane. It is a monster. And the requests that I get for people that want to run it, I've had people ask me about wanting to fly in from Texas to come race, fly in from the Northwest, fly in from the Northeast to come and race this thing. Like, hey, I want to come race, but it says it's sold out. I'm like, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's full. I just can't add any more. I'd love to have you, but it's full. But I did start the 10 scale side this year. 10 scale, I started with J Concept Super Cup in 2013, 14, and started doing the RD work for them. I believe in 14 is when I started doing RD work for them. And so it had a lot of very special meaning to me personally, the 10 scale and Super Cup side. When I stepped away, there were a couple different people that took over Super Cup, and J Concepts was kind of, I'm not going to say they were kind of phasing themselves out of it, but they were allowing other people to run it and stuff like that. And it just wasn't working out. It wasn't what the racers were wanting. Entry counts were extremely low. not saying what they were doing was a bad thing. It just wasn't what the racers were wanting as a whole.
Right.
And I was getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts. Hey, can you start up an FRCC 10 scale series? And I'm like, they're kind of doing their own thing over there. Not really interested in doing that right now. FRCC 8 scale is really, really big. A lot of people, then the calls started getting a lot more frequent and a lot more regular. And then, like with it being, that's a special place in my heart. And it really hurt to see 10th scale struggling and dying off the way that it was. So I was like, I put some thought into it, and I reached out to some people that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and said, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking about doing. And nobody said don't do it. Everybody said go for it. Please, please do what you want to do. And so I put some thought into it, and I came up with a program that was a little different than what was always ran in the past, and put it all together, and here we are. So first race had 130 entries or so, 118 entries, if I remember right. And this one right here almost broke 150. We were in the 140. So I was very happy with that as well. So the growth is coming back, and I'm seeing a lot of the old guard, the really competitive 10th scale racers have all came back and hit the track hard.
Nice.
They're all excited about it. Danny Paz doing his thing in partnership with him, and Elite and FRCC is just, it's gaining momentum. And I hope it continues.
The 10 scale thing. So are you doing it at the same time as you're doing the A scale? So you have like an on season for 10th and an off season for 10th and an on season for A scale and off season for A scale.
Basically right now, the way that it's running is every 2 weeks, it's 8 scale, 10 scale, 8 scale, 10 scale, 8 scale, 10 scale, every 2 weeks.
Oh, so they are running at the same time, just not on the same weekends.
No. So like the 10 scale runs at the beginning of the month, the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And 8 scale runs on the third of the month. Third weekend.
But you're still it's not like you're running 10 scale in the winter and 8 scale in the summer.
No.
You're running them at the same time.
Yeah, same month.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same month. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, Florida's popping.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Florida, as far as like 10 scale and A scale, like the RC scene in the Southeast is not bad at all. Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. I mean, there is a large contingency of RC racers in the Southeast, just like there is in the Southwest. I know that, there's hot spots all over the country, but those are kind of like the two major ones. I know that in the Midwest, up in like the Nebraska and Iowa area, there's a pretty good, decent one. Illinois. These beers make me gassy every time I drink them. But it's, you're the only one that's really doing what you're doing. It's very unique. You're also selling like season passes, which is very cool and unique because you limited them, right? How many? So you allow roughly 300 entries. How many season passes do you sell?
Well, so for the 8 scale series, it was when I first did it last year, I was only going to sell 10. That's all I was going to sell. Well, they sold out in minutes. They were gone in minutes, gone. And a lot of people were really upset. Like, hey, I want to buy a season pass. I don't want to have to deal with that mad rush at 7:00 on Thursday evening to sign up. I want to buy a season pass too. So I sold more. So the first year we sold probably right at about 60. The first year season passes, we sold 140 this year, and I was only supposed to sell 100.
So, but those guys, they have to pay that whether they show up or not.
That's correct.
So you pay for a season pass, but if you don't show up to a race, it's not like you get anything back. Like you pay it up front.
You don't get any money back, but here's something that you do get. So I put some thought into that part of it as well. So we put on a pretty big and elaborate banquet. Like my banquets are really, really big.
Yeah, you were telling me about that today.
I'm not joking. It's over $20,000 for our banquet. When time you add in the food, the venue, the prizes, everything the awards that we're doing, it's well over $20,000 of stuff. I have to buy a great deal of it. It's not all given to me. I know some people think that is given. I really wish that it was, but unfortunately it's not. I do buy a lot of things. And pay for a lot, but at the same time, it's to give back to the racers. So if you buy a season pass and let's say something happens and you're just not able to make 5 of the 7 rounds, you're automatically qualified to be able to go to the banquet. Automatically. Doesn't matter, even if you decide to drop out.
Yeah.
Like I got one racer that got a big promotion, new job, and he's going to have to drop out of the series. Only ran 2 rounds, going to drop out of the series. I understand, it's just life.
Yeah.
But, hey man, come
Life
to the
happens.
banquet. You're still welcome to come to the banquet. On top of that, I also do a 5 bonus point for every round that you attend. Okay, so now if you're not a season pass holder and you decide not to attend a round, you don't get the 5 bonus points. But if you're a season pass holder, you do get the 5 bonus points.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing there as well.
So, but are you doing drops?
You do 2 drops.
Out of how many rounds?
7.
7 rounds, 2 drops, so 5 count.
5 count.
Gotcha.
Yep.
But the two rounds that don't count, if you miss 3, you get at least 5 bonus points for one of the 3 that you dropped.
You get the 5 bonus points for all 7.
For all of them, no
For all
matter
of them.
what.
You get
So on
5
top of your points.
Yes, on top of your points.
Gotcha.
Yep. So you're getting an automatic 35 points.
Yeah.
Per class automatically.
Are you not? Have you thought about like branching off into different regions on the weeks that you're not doing it in Florida?
Well, so that's the problem. Like right now, we have 37 events scheduled for Elite. Now that includes FRCC rounds,
Right.
But we have 37 events that are scheduled for 2024. I can't take on anything else.
Gotcha.
I'm already
Got to have life. You got to have home time.
I'm already stretched out as it is. I've been married for well over 25 years now. I'd like to get another 25 in. And if I was to take on anymore, I think my wife would kill me.
Yeah. Well, congrats on 25 years, man. I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot, man. Yeah.
I speaking of 25, I'm thinking like, man, my wife and I, probably in one of the best spots we've been in our tenure, like but I'm thinking, shit, you see these 50 plus marriage years and you're like, fuck, those people have really put in the work.
Yeah.
Like you've had to let a lot of shit go.
Mm-hmm.
You've had to like pick your battles for 50 years. That's a lot of time, so kudos to anybody that makes it past 10, 15 years. Cause I'm at that point and it's, and I mean, I'm looking like you, I'm the same way. I'm looking for another 15, 20 years, this isn't, this is the long term, and that's why it goes back to what we talked about first. It's so important. And I can't stress this enough. If you guys are watching or listening to this, I cannot stress enough. RC is awesome, but it's a hobby. Don't fuck up your family life for RC.
There's very few of us that it's business.
Yes.
Very few.
I will not sacrifice RC for my family life.
Yeah.
And this is how I make my living. So if that tells you anything, if you just love it that much, you're addicted to this hobby, you need to keep your family life in check. That's way more important. Your kids, your wife, people depend on you. They will allow you to go more places when they know that you care more about the family than you do about the RC. And if you're not one of those guys that's making your living off of it, then your wife probably doesn't understand. So for you to make her understand, spend some time at home.
My biggest fear is letting people down and stuff like that. I get scared, like when I'm going to events and stuff like that. What if I get sick?
Right.
I just very recently, I had some health scares just recently. My blood pressure got massively out of control last year.
But that RC will do that to anybody.
Yeah,
but
it was,
you on a different level.
Bad. It was really, really bad. When you're 238 over 174, man,
that's harsh.
That's
high.
Bad.
Yeah.
And I felt like poo, and just a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I dealt with a kidney stone while I was at a race. I thought I had a bad kidney infection is what I really was, and man, I was struggling really, really bad at the race itself. Well, it finally hit me on Sunday when we were packing up, and I'm not saying I'm a tough guy or anything, but it put me down on my knees on the ground. I just couldn't take.
I've never had one, and I'm knocking on wood because I only have one kidney left. But you don't have to say I'm not, it's not like you're not a tough guy. Anybody I've ever talked to that's had a kidney stone, it'll put you on the ground. So it doesn't matter if you're the baddest motherfucker on the face of the earth. Yeah. The kidney stone's one of those things that'll drop you.
Yeah. It's tough. This is my third one that I've had, and it put me down. I had to have I never let anybody drive, especially with my camper on. I had my fifth wheel. I never let.
Who drove? Who was it?
I had to let Gene drive.
Gene.
Yeah,
GSR.
I let Gene drive. I just could not. We got down the road maybe 4 or 5 miles, and I'm squirming like a worm over there in the seat trying to find any type of a comfortable position. I just finally couldn't take it anymore. I literally just pulled over on the side of the road. I was like, I can't take it. I just can't take it anymore. Somebody else got to drive, because you're having to mash on the gas or the brake or hold the steering wheel. You no matter what, you're having to do something when you're driving.
Not to mention you got other people's lives in your hands.
Yeah.
And that's it comes down to being responsible. I hate not driving, but I hate to drive. Mm-hmm. I drove so much as a kid, traveling across the country racing, and then learned in part of my dad's business. I would be one of those guys, if I had enough money, where I would always have one of those black cars driving me around everywhere, because I hate driving. But when it comes down to pain like that, I've been in that pain before. Jesus. And it's like, take the wheel.
Yeah.
Because I'm done.
I was probably about 300 feet away from my camper when it really hit me. Like, I knew it was coming, that I just felt the pain. I'm like, I got to fight through this. Because we were trying to clean up and pack up from the previous day's race at Sundancers. I was trying to pack up, and I'm trying to help Gene. I'm trying to help Patrick. And I'm like, man, I just can't let these guys down. I've got to work. I got to work, And finally it hit me, and man, I just could not take it no more. I'm sitting down, squirming around like a snake, and just trying to find any type of comfort anywhere I can. Well, I finally just forced myself to stand up, and I'm like crab walking to the camper, and I crawl in the thing like an idiot. I know I look like a fool, but I just couldn't take the pain, man. I had tears coming out of my eyes. It's of all the things about broken bones, sports injuries, you name it. I've had all kinds of injuries, but I've never had experienced pain to the point where I throw up, where I puke.
Yeah.
And that hits me.
It gotcha.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Throw up. Yeah. I mean, it's for those of you that are listening and watching that have been through it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that have not, I pray you never experience it.
I really try. So kidney health is a big thing to me, because like I said, I lost one, and I really, really try my best to eat and drink things that help keep what would consider a kidney stone away, because I don't have back. I mean, even if you got one with two, you're hurting, but I don't want to have to get in a situation where I have a bad kidney. I have a kidney going, having problems.
Yeah.
So I'm very, I drink a lot of different things a lot of water, number one. Like, I very rarely drink sodas, only on race weekends, or once every couple of weeks I'll have a soda.
Isn't beet juice like really good for that?
Beet juice, cranberry juice, stuff like that. Very good for it. But I don't drink a lot of beer. Like, every other Tuesday I drink a few. And then when I'm doing these live shows. But, it's, for me, I try to be as healthy as possible, knowing that I can't be fully healthy, because I'm just not that guy. I work out and I eat what I can that's healthy, but then I love chocolate, or muffins in the morning, like shit that's bad for you. Yeah. But when, if I know something is known for doing something to you, especially like kidney problems or kidney stones, stuff like that, like, I steer away from it. Those are the things that I'm really, really adamant about. What can you do? I mean, we're human. We like, we're marketed.
The number one most addictive thing in the U.S. that everybody's hooked on is sugars.
Yeah.
It's not drugs, not beer, it's not alcohol, cigarettes. The number one thing in America that everybody's hooked on is sugars. It's in everything. It's injected into everything we eat and drink. To get you addicted to whatever that is that you're eating or drinking.
Yeah, even if you're eating pasta. Like, you think you're eating a good meal,
and
it's just all broken down carbs and sugar.
Yep.
My wife tells me it all the time, and she's gluten free. So we have to eat a little bit differently, and I'm be like, oh man, I ate really good last night, and she's like, oh yeah, that was all carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me that, But I mean, we need it. You work out, you have to have carbs. You do this, you need this.
We don't get it in moderation,
right? But I mean, one of the things that was really important to me is I quit drinking energy drinks because I mean, when I started seeing these different graphs of the sugars, we go back to sugar, like how much sugar is in a Monster versus Dr. Pepper, and then I was like, okay, water. No sugar in that water. I'm drinking water.
So when I do P&B, I usually get one of those tall Monsters, and I will literally sip on that for the entire weekend.
Yeah,
because I at that race it's brutal. So you have to, I have to have something extra to get me through. I was drinking those little 5-hour energy things, but I stopped drinking those because I noticed that whenever I would drink those for the weekend to get me through that, it would take me about a week and a half really to get that crap out of my system.
Yeah.
So I stopped drinking those. So I would get me a Monster and I'll sleep on that. I'll sip on it for the entire weekend. And then I'll stop drinking it probably about 2-3 o'clock on Sunday as we get through the mains. So by the time midnight comes around, I can finally, really relax and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Out of my system.
I've never had a problem going to sleep.
You're fortunate.
Yeah. So, I mean, even my wife, she'll tell me, she'll be like, a bomb went off last night. Okay. Dog had to go out 10 times last night. Okay.
This race, I've been awake every morning at 4 o'clock. Every morning.
Yeah. But now I wake up at the same time every morning.
Yeah.
But when I fall asleep,
my sleep habits are terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And we started up a new business with the Elite thing, and it's real, we've been working on it for a while, but now it's really forefront and important now. And with any time you start up a new business, you stress.
Yeah.
You stress about it. I worry about my crew. Making sure that they're taken care of and things like that, because that's first and foremost. They got to get, before anything else gets paid, I always make sure the people get paid.
Yeah.
And I just worry about
what's the
like
blood
that.
of the business.
Yeah, I just worry about it.
So I mean, Danny, so Elite, obviously I'm a big Elite fan. You guys did my fall brawl, you did the RC Prime last year, you're here now. Danny also over the last few years done my masters for me. You guys did fall brawl back when it was still at the Badlands. So Elite now is not only just doing these bigger events, but like obviously you're traveling the FRCC, but it is basically whatever you do or wherever you go. Is it part of it, or are you still doing RD and stuff without it, or it's like it's a full package?
It's two different things. We do have the full package that we do with the Elite. I am still hired to do RD work specifically, just like Danny is also hired to do broadcast events specifically.
Okay.
So typically whenever other people go along with assist him, that's when Elite is involved. Like if he takes Gene with him or Patrick with him or Keenan with him, or it takes all of them but me. Like, let's say, for instance, for the beginning of the year, I was up at Hoosier for the very first race of the year, and they were at the Beast of the East. We were split apart.
Gotcha.
So I went up and did the RD work up there at Hoosier while they were doing the broadcast work at the Beast of the East.
Yeah.
So that was Elite, there. Danny was kind of in charge of that part of it while I was doing my RD work. But whenever we're doing a full production, turnkey production, we're all there.
Yeah.
We're all together.
So obviously I've known you for a long time, but then Danny got mentioned either by you or a couple people. I know that he came highly recommended, and I brought him in. I think I was trying to get Mod at one point, and someone said, get Danny. Maybe even was Matt Olson. I think it was Matt Olson.
It was Matt that was
recommended.
Yeah,
he said, I can't be there. I'm doing the J Concepts INSs. But Danny's out there and he's doing really good work. And I had known already that you had said, like, hey, Danny can do some stuff for you. It might have been like video work. And so I hired him, and I can't remember what year it was, 2 or 3 years ago for Masters, I think it was. And dude's amazing.
Mm-hmm. What he does by himself is insane.
See, I relate to that because I feel like my crew does very similar to your crew. We do a lot with the little.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I appreciated about Danny. Number one, just a fucking great dude.
Mm-hmm.
Danny's just such a genuinely cool kid.
Yeah.
Like, great guy. I love him. And I just love working with him. Like, he's made me not want to use anyone else for video wise and streaming because I just love him as a person. But he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And he does the work of 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
One guy. And then you've made these relationships, and you've got this company built, which is now Elite Productions. So right now you're traveling with 2 helpers. Keenan's generally are with you, Danny and yourself. So there's 5 guys.
Yep.
5 guys. I mean, if anyone's watching the streams that are happening through what you guys are hired to do, I mean, the work is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm biased, and I'm very happy with what I get. And there's only a few really top-notch streamers in our industry. I mean, you can Toby, you guys, Mod, and Live RC. I mean, that's really all there is. That's doing it. And the East Coast is pretty locked down right now with Elite. And like, what do you see anything past RC, or is like RC your focus? What is it for Elite in that company? What is your focus, and do you guys have higher aspirations?
So if we were asked to do other videos or of motorsports and things like that, would we entertain it? Absolutely. Absolutely we would. But they also have to understand that we're not ESPN, we're not, with these big, $1 million cameras and things like that. We're very small. We're not amateur, but at the same time, we're not ESPN. We're not ABC. We're Wide of Sports and things like that. Expectations have to be set. But as far as what do we want to do? Where do we want this to go? Yeah, absolutely. We want it to become something big. We want to do other things other than just RC. RC is such a niche market, like you had made mention of that earlier. There's not a lot of outside money coming into RC.
Yeah.
The dollars that float into RC come from the consumer directly. Especially on the advertising side of things, is based upon entry fee. We don't have any door passes or gate passes for spectators. We don't have a spectator base, so to say, unless you're actually in RC. So we don't have those outside dollars coming in. It's rough. It's tough to get the advertising money and things like that for people that are not involved.
Yeah.
Would love to see that happen one day, and we're going to try to work towards that. But again, it's going to be on a very small scale. It's not going to be huge. You're not going to see the Geicos and the Budweisers and, Verizon. You're not going to see them signing on to RC events.
No. No. So, but what could, like, what's missing right now? Like, if you had a budget and you could just change how it's done, what's missing in RC production or streaming or getting it out there? Like, what could you do more than what you're doing right now?
As a whole, you talking about as an event? So,
well, like as the production, the event, but the production of what the consumer, the watcher, the viewers, like what could you do if you had a bigger budget or the means? Like, what could we do right now to make it better? Because from when I started 10 years ago, 11 years ago, into where we're at right now, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And, like, we're always advancing. That's the goal. Like, how can we be better than the next guy? How can we excel? How could Elite excel and be the top in the industry that we're in right now? Like, what's next?
So for us, something that I would like to see, so on the viewership side of things, as people are watching it, the ability to be able to identify vehicles is terrible. It's getting better as people have now added the headshots of the drivers and labels of, okay, first place, this guy's in first place, trying to identify with what's on the screen. But you don't see people going out, and I'm going to use a NASCAR reference here. You don't see them going out and buying, a Ryan Mayfield shirt with his car and stuff on it, Dakota Finn with their shirt with their car and stuff on it. There may be like the Ryan Mayfield no apology shirt. There may be stuff like that, but you don't see them going out and buying those because people aren't really identifying with those cars on a spectator level like that.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out and buy the merchandise from it. So it also relates the same way on the broadcast side of it. It's hard for the spectator to relate to what am I looking at here without being told specifically what I'm looking at.
Is it because the tracks, especially in the 10 scale world, but it's because tracks are too small and it's hard to zoom in and get that shot?
Yep. So if you look at, let's go back to NASCAR F1, Indy, when cameras are focused in on the action, they're not 20 feet away from it. They're on a huge perch looking across the track. Sure. Or something along those lines, because they're moving things extremely slowly. We're so close to the action because typically we have to set up on a driver's stand is where we have to set up at, and we're moving that camera very rapidly, where those big broadcasts are just making small, minute movements. Same way in football, soccer, things like that. They're not making huge sweeps like we do in RC, so it's hard to keep up with.
What about... Is the technology there, especially on the streaming level, to like implement tiny enough to where weight isn't a factor, trackers in them, like taped to the bodies or taped down into chassis, where you can like turn it on and it kind of puts a glow around a car on the track, and like when you're talking about somebody, like does that technology exist to where it's easy enough with some sort of sponsorship or funding? Like, is that something that's...
I would like to see illuminated numbers is what I would like to see. So I'm just going to grab a body here, if you don't mind. I would like to see illuminated
the great
numbers.
Ryan Reese's body right there.
So I would like to see some sort of illuminated number somewhere that, and if they're all the same and you require them to run them, have an illuminated number on the car. Technology with LED and things like that now have gotten to the point to where, one, they don't draw any power.
Yeah.
You're talking minimal power draw. And it would help identify the car a little bit. You could have specific colors that are related to
numbers.
Yeah. You have specific colors.
Well, that was actually, when you started saying that, I started thinking like, why don't, like if you could get 10 colors or 15 colors, but that's hard when you think RGB or CMYK, but like that each car had a glow of a color coming through the windshield, like a yellow, a blue, a red, a green. But when you get to like a teal and a dark blue and a light blue and a yellow and a green and a light green and a dark green, whatever. Yeah. Fuck. But yeah, I mean, illuminated numbers could be for sure. And that's what I'm, with the ability to use a switcher. Anyone technical that understands like how things work with video, a switcher will change from one shot to a next. But with the ability to use a switcher to like follow a car that has a tracker in it or something like that, and be able to, when that car is popped up, it says, Ryan Reese, for instance, or whatever. This is, and it pops his face up, which now is done probably almost manually, if not manually.
Still manually.
But like be able to switch between, all these different, trackers that are 1, 2, 3 in 10 scale through 10 or 8 scale through 15, something like that. As long as whoever's using the equipment could, pick a number knowing what the car, who was driving that number or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's why I asked. It's like, what can we do? Where does this get better? Because so I revert back to RCGP. Okay. RCGP made our Live RC step up their game, because RCGP came in and was like, we're going to make this like an event. We're going to make this because not everyone can go to Italy or, Philippines or whatever. So we're going to make this to where like you can follow along with who's out there. And they started putting the faces up. They started, as far as I understand, they were the first to do it. Mm-hmm. Then Live RC is kind of like, oh fuck, like we got to catch up. Let's do it for Nats or whatever it was the year that after RCGP did it. And then the technology started becoming very common. Danny, Mod, whoever, Toby. So like the few that are already here. But like, I'm just in my mind, because I'm always thinking like I want my shit to be better than anybody else's, because I always think about like what is next, what can I do, what can I help the people I hire or I want to be associated with, what can we do? And that's why the RC Pro-Am is so important to me, because it's a totally different format. Nobody's doing it. Not only is no one doing it, but to me it's like it's kind of giving back.
Yep.
But like, what technology can we use to like make it cooler to watch? So, because that's, to me, the disconnect in RC is watching. Mm-hmm. That is where it's awesome to be there. If you're an RC guy and you show up and you're watching Mayfield race Dakota, or Fuller's trying to finally get his first win and B Rose getting that, we know. But what makes it fucking cool? Like, what can we do that changes someone that just tunes in because one of their buddies posted it on Facebook and they click the link and they're watching it and they're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, what's that next step?
I think the fields need to be a little bit smaller. If you're asking me on a big level, fields need to be a little bit smaller. I think they're a little bit too big because of the amount of cars whenever they're out there, and we're dealing with a smaller footprint, and everything's going so fast and chaotic because you have lanes that are crisscrossing, or not, shouldn't say crisscrossing, they're side by side and things like that. It makes it a little hard to follow. You look at your big scale motorsports, everything's kind of gapped out. You don't have lanes that are side by side.
Supercross is though.
Supercross is, but when you look at it again on the big scale, it also, when you make everything bigger, even though it's going faster as far as speed mile per hour, it actually slows way down. It's the same way, just like NASCAR going 200 miles an hour around Daytona, but it's on 2.5 miles of track. So it actually, because it's on such a big scale, it actually slows things
slower,
down.
right?
So people can follow it and people keep up with it. This is on such a small scale and so close together, on like a you can't follow it, you can't keep up with it. It's not a spectator-friendly sport,
right?
On that, that's one issue. It's so hard. A spectator just can't log on and just pick up what's going on without being in the industry. They can't walk through a door and say, "Oh, well, this is pretty cool." They're like, "Well, I have no clue what's going on. Who's actually in the lead here?" They have no idea. We don't have any scoreboards or anything like that. We don't have anything up in any of the events other than what's in pit lane.
I will, but I hate to interrupt you, but I do want to say something about what you just said. Dave, who I highly respect and love as a guy, came up with that fucking amazing driver stand video screen.
That was actually my idea.
Whoever.
Yeah.
But it's dead. Because it does nothing.
It does absolutely nothing.
So
it's not coming back anymore. It's over. Yeah.
It needed is fucking have the Live RC crawler or whatever on it. Yeah, because everyone's sitting over here watching it. Yeah. If it just, we didn't have to watch our phones because we could see who's where.
Yeah.
That's at event. I can't believe it's not come back. It just needed to, the technology's there. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not coming back.
Oh my God.
It's a lot of work to put that thing up and take that thing down. And I'm sure Dave will probably agree that it wasn't used to its maximum potential by a long shot. But Dave had actually made a point a while back. So on his podiums, and it makes me think about a lot of different things. But this one really stuck to me when he told me this. Do you remember on his podiums, he used to have big screens and stuff like that up on his podiums?
Yeah.
You notice they haven't been there the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, I mean, everything changes with him from year to year, or so. Not really, but
So he stopped doing it. You know how many people said something about it? 0.
Well, but here's the thing, okay? The screens on the driver's stand isn't something that you can just do away with.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if he kept doing it, but just used it for what the people want it to be used for, which would be to follow the race, and then in between races, throw up those promos and like what race is next and stuff. No one wants to know that we're in qualifier 2, but if we didn't have to look at our phone and we could see who was where, like is basically a ticker the entire time.
So the live RC ticker across the top.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's all it needed.
Yeah.
And that thing would have been the most perfect addition. And I already thought it was cool. It was cool when they did, they put the tribute to Tebow there. It's cool when they say we're in round 2, but they could do like round 2, E-Truggy. And I know it's a lot of work. So I'm not discounting the fact that you got to put the time in beforehand to make it all happen. However, even if it did none of that shit, but had the ticker the entire time, it would have been useful. Yeah. That was the only thing it missed. If it had all the other shit and the ticker, it's fucking gangster. It's literally the best addition to a driver stand that could ever be made. And mic drop, you're done.
Yeah.
If it's not coming back, it's a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not coming back.
Come on, Dave. Dave, give it one more shot. Bring it back.
Yeah.
And put the ticker up. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. And I'm texting you tomorrow because of this. Bring it back. Put the ticker up. You can't tell me the technology isn't that you can't do it.
When he did the TV tower, and we had the pro drivers on the TV tower and stuff like that, there was a lot of people really like that. Yeah. We got a lot of requests like, hey, how can I get my picture up there? There was a lot of people asked that. A lot of people, like that kind of stuff. And it's like
next level.
Yeah, I like that TV tower that he did. Again, it's a lot of freaking work to do all that stuff. There's 4 TVs on the front and 4 TVs on the back, but it was eye-catching. It popped. As far as the TVs, whenever I was super excited. Like when I was like, hey, what would be a good idea? Instead of having that banner up there, what if that was lined with television screens? And man, their eyes just lit up. Like, never thought of that type thing. But then whenever you actually see it in person, like when I finally walked in and I saw the TVs on the driver's stand, it didn't wow me.
It wasn't used right.
It didn't wow me.
I'm telling you right now, the wow isn't about, it's not a, there's plenty of banners. Mm-hmm. We all know the sponsors because they're everywhere else. Mm-hmm. That, while we're looking at the driver's drive and we're wanting to watch the race and not just look at the phone, if it was properly used as a ticker, it is the most genius freaking, it's a score. Yeah. I'm telling you, Dave, don't fucking put this away, okay? One more year, stream the ticker to it. I'm telling you, it will, the feedback, guys, if you're watching this, I know you're going to, everyone message Dave. Tell him that you want a ticker on the screens.
Get me in trouble.
No, listen, I was going to ask Dave about it anyway because I didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. I really don't understand that it wasn't used for anything but promotion. Mm-hmm. Promotion's great. You can use promotion in between events or between qualifiers. What about following the races? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're at PNB and you look at across from the driver's stand, there's always 50 to 100 people there just watching what's going on the track. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the mains, they're almost full. Like, they at fill PNB. In at PNB.
And that's another thing that I would like to, while you're talking about that, another thing with RC, like when our pro drivers are coming up to race, it doesn't matter what event you go to, who the hell knows what time. They could do a schedule, they can, but it's all over the place. Pros may be running at midnight. Pros may be running at 4. I think that we need to come up with a set schedule. Whenever we're doing these big events, whether it be DNC, P&B, Silver State, Wicked Weekend, The pros run at 4 p.m. Pro Nitro Buggy is going to run at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Pro Nitro Buggy, 8 p.m. for Pro E Buggy. You know, there needs to be set specific times. Doesn't matter where the hell you are at in the program. As soon as that one race is before it ends, you're going to move immediately to that next program. It needs to be there needs to be about a 10, 15 minute window before the event. You got that camera and microphone in that place. Hey, did you make any adjustments? What tires are you going out on? You need to be talking to those top qualifiers, talking to those team managers, talking to those mechanics, hitting up Adam Drake. You know, hey, any special tunes? Did you make any adjustments on the tune for this motor? You know, or so on and so forth. That stuff needs to be talked about. There needs to be some buildup leading to the event.
Yeah.
We have zero of that. After they finish their third and final qualifier and the TQ is in set, we may get a 10, 15 minute, or excuse me, a 2-minute interview with them. You don't hear from them guys at all again until their main starts.
Well, a pit walking type interview and getting those guys while we know they're there could be very beneficial. Yeah. Which I love that because it's stuff that we can definitely use for RCG or RC Pro-Am. And I would love to, for me, it's all about including the pros and then also getting like the best personalities you can possibly get. Yeah. But yeah, we have kind of going back to what I asked you, like what's next level? What's next step? It's definitely, I mean, who doesn't want to hear Ryan Mayfield talk?
Oh, I know. Yeah. The guy
He's one of the best.
So much charisma.
Yeah.
You know,
and unfortunately not everyone can be like him. Yeah. I mean, he is one of the, you know, he's a 1%er when it comes to that style. You know, you're going to get people like Drew Singer who can just say the dumbest shit, you know, just to get a rise out of you. Yeah. And you'll get Mayfield who wears it on his sleeve and doesn't care. He's going to tell you. Yeah. But then you're going to get the corporate shit. You're going to get the robots and then you're going to get people that just say what they think that the sponsors are going to be happy with them saying and not show emotion, which is not what we want. You know, like, look, I want you to be who you are. I want you to be upset that you sucked or you made a mistake or you got took out. I want you to tell me. I want to know. I want that rivalry to begin for that race. And if it ends after that race, that's great. But, you know, like for instance, what happened at Wicked Weekend with Seth and Cole. Yeah. Like, I want to know more. Yeah. And these are both my guys. You know, like I'm part of both of their programs. I'm like, I want to see more of this. You know, you guys hate each other. That's fine. You know, Chevys, people that run Chevys can still take each other out. Yeah. You know, we lack that. We lack good rivalries that aren't physical. Yep. We need rivalries that are verbal and what am I looking for? Like I want people to get angry.
Well, everybody is really PC, you know. They don't want their sponsors upset with them, because the sponsors are all worried about what is going to sell and how am I going to keep sales or generate sales. Yeah, you know, that's all that they focus on. They're not really worried about the personality. I'm hiring you not for your personality. I'm hiring you for your skills as a driver. I'm not worried about, you know, when the interviews, I don't care anything about that. You know, you look at all of the big scale motorsports. I mean, those guys go through a whole training session of how to talk and deal with media and things like that. There ain't none of that here. You know?
Yeah, but don't you think that's kind of debunked when you start thinking of like Dale Earnhardt and even more recently, like Ryan Blaney. I mean, Ryan Blaney will tell you how he feels. He's going to talk shit. He's going to tell you, like, I don't care what he did. He's a piece of shit. And that's what, you know, Earnhardt said. I'll get him at the next one. I'll take him out. I don't give a shit. What goes around comes around. Yeah. You know, we don't need PC's fine. But, I mean, I look at people for who they are, the face value. If you want somebody that's just going to be polished off and say whatever, you get, you know, like a Spencer Rivkin. But if you want a guy that's real with whatever's happening, you go for a Ryan Mayfield. You know, there's nothing wrong with the Spencer Rivkin. I'm not talking down on how he portrays himself in the public eye. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there's two kind of like, if you're a company, you're sponsoring this guy, but you might also have one of these guys.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm one that doesn't, like, I say whatever I want. It might hurt me in the long run. It might not.
I've stuck my foot in my mouth many times.
And that goes the same with like JQ. You don't have to be a JQ fan to understand that he speaks his mind. Might not be what we all want to hear. We might not like it. But he says exactly what's on his mind. I respect him for that. I don't agree with half the shit I've heard him say. But I'm not going to silence myself personally to satisfy a company. The companies that support me the most, the ones that I do the most business with, they support me because of the person I am. They knew that from the day one. They didn't get involved with me thinking like, oh, he's going to be the next A main or whatever. They got involved with me because they knew I could sell product, and they knew I had a following. If you take that out of it, you're basically just watering down your brand. And I don't want to see that. I want to see more full strength brand. Yeah. I want people to be mad, if somebody fucks them out of a win.
Yeah.
I want people to, get in someone's face and say, you just wait till the next time we race.
That's kind of the reasons why there for a while, we haven't done it in a while. We've got to get back to doing it. When we literally would send a guy down into pit lane during a nitro run. We would literally send either Patrick or somebody down into pit lane. Hey, somebody just broke. Go find out what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Go down there and find out what's going on. And they're like, oh, that, this damn servo broke again, this piece of crap, or Joe Schmo can't drive his car right and landed bad on the jumper or the lander and crossed over into my lane.
Yeah.
Like an idiot.
Well, Keenan was doing the pit interviews during Pro-Am, and I got to be part of one. And I think that is way much needed. Like, we need pit interviews during main events when people are on different strategies, when people are racing hard or maybe had a problem. Can they catch up? I think, once again, goes back to, like, how can we make things better? People want to know the emotion. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we can't talk to the drivers. There's no caution flags. We can't stop and ask the driver, like, what are you going to do when...
You say that. Why can't there be?
I mean, there could be, but concentration in this is a lot. I mean, if there's yellow flags...
Okay, so we say this, that...
How do you create a yellow flag in off-road racing? Right. I'm interested.
So not so much a yellow flag, but you have mandatory pit stops with mandatory tire changes. Why can't we have that? Why? Why can we not have that?
There's nothing say we can't.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you start off on a tire and you have to do a mandatory tire change. Maybe that might be a thing to look at.
Let's do it for the Pro-Am. Let's do it.
So let's say you have to
I'm saying it right now. RC Pro-Am this year will have mandatory tire changes in nitro and e-buggy mains.
Yeah. Why can't we?
I'm saying it right now.
You talk about change up things, and you only allow one mechanic in there. You don't allow multiple mechanics. Well, okay, so now you only allowed one mechanic in there. Who's to say now, hey, I'm going to be doing my pit stop here in a little bit. If you help me change my tires, I'll help you change your tires.
Sure. Who's going to work together?
Or is somebody
as long as there's only one there?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I see. That's what I'm saying. I like different. And you heard it here. RC Pro-Am this year, mandatory pit stops happening in nitro buggy and e-buggy, all three classes. 6 mandatory tire changes are going to happen this year.
And I say it needs to be a very specific stop. Okay, after X amount of minutes of running, everybody's going to come in.
You have to do it between like this stop and that stop. Like there has to be like a time frame.
Here's your window.
Don't have to do it at the same time, but it has to be like between 15 and 20 minutes or something like
Everybody's
that.
Everybody's got to come in and do a mandatory tire change.
I fucking love it, man. That
I don't know why it can't be. Why can't we have stuff like that?
We're going to prove that point this year in July.
And it will make things a little bit different. And going back to the yellow flag, one of the advantages of the yellow flag, if everybody's really spread out on the track, like if they're really, really spread out, who's the hell say you can't stop in the middle of the race? okay, guys, everybody into the pits. We're stopping the race, and we're going to grid you back up again. Doesn't matter if you're 2 laps up, 3 laps up, or you're still going to be 2 laps, 3 laps up, but it gets everybody bunched up back together.
Yeah.
And then you start them all off again. Why can't we have that?
We're going to start with mandatory tire change.
Yeah. You know?
We'll see about the yellow flag, okay? But the mandatory tire change is going to happen, and I love it because most people would love to have a different set of tires on halfway through. And if you're talking to your guys, like, okay, I started off on green reflex, but I want Cosmos for the second. You know what I mean? Like, I love it, and it's happening. RC Pro-Am in July is going to have mandatory pit stops for 6 classes. Fuck. That's why I love drinking and talking. Because why not, right?
I mean, why can't we have that? Who
I
says
agree.
we can't? Just do it, you know?
Well, different is always hard. Like, I go back.
There'll be people that'll bark at it.
It doesn't matter.
They're stupid.
Well,
it's the same for everybody.
We had a conversation earlier because I'm obviously fighting. I've had 35 to 40 layouts at Beach RC. And for whatever reason, the hardness of Masters of Dirt in 2023 in October has really scared people away from coming to Palmetto. And from what I understand, Nationals.
Yeah.
And it blows me away. I've had 8 very, very successful Masters of Dirt. Lots of great layouts. I mean, out of almost 40 layouts, I've probably had 1 or 2 that most people would be like, it could be better. And then we have 1, but it's like, guys.
Well, there's an old saying.
Different is not bad. It's just because that one wasn't suited for you or you didn't like it doesn't mean we're going to do the same thing the next time.
There's an old saying, it takes years to build a reputation and seconds to destroy it. I'm not saying you destroyed anything.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
But it takes seconds, and a lot of people really struggled on that, and they remember it. You know, there will be people this weekend that will complain about the layout this weekend.
Sure,
you know, to be like, you know, it's tough, it's this, that's that, you know, everything else. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take much to leave a bad taste in people's mouth. And with the amount of social media that we have these days and people chattering and, you know, about, oh, this sucks, da, 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 da. And, you know, it's next thing you know, they're like, oh, well, the whole place sucks.
We've been canceled is what you're saying.
You know,
like Beach RC has literally been canceled.
I wouldn't say that. We hadn't got that far yet.
No,
We're
I'm not.
Long ways from that.
I agree. It does blow my mind because 80% of the people that were at Masters this year were at the Masters the year before. And they know, and in those 80%, where it's probably 80% of those people were at the Masters the year before that. And they know, like, yes, we always make Masters more challenging than a normal track because that's what it's called. It's not called Easies.
Yeah.
It's called Masters.
Yeah.
But we, you know, maybe a little bit we missed the mark in one section or maybe 2, but they had options and they chose the harder option, which generally was a 50-50 chance of making it, which meant that they were not doing as good as they thought they should, which meant it was our fault. Instead of taking the easy option, which was a slower option, which they could have done every time, repetition, and possibly never had an issue, but that's our fault. Now, I get it. The track was hard. The top pros told me, dude, that's one of the hardest fucking tracks I ever been on. And I respect them. And that doesn't mean it's going to be like that again.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's I don't understand that side of the mentality of if you go to one, like PNB, perfect example, and DNC. You go to these tracks, one year, track might blow out or suck and have a section that's blind or hard to see or whatever, a jump that's not faced right. But the next year, everything's perfect. If you judge everything off of, I mean, the event was still good. The people, you know, were still ran the same way. So that's what, I get that. Like, come on, guys. Let's step out of this, like, it sucked and it was hard mode, and move into it's just another race, and it's going to be better the next time. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's a human mentality. It's easy to divert the blame from oneself to something else. It's very easy to do.
That's true.
You know, there be every race and everything I've ever been involved in racing wise, it's easy to blame the track, blame the race director, blame the other racers. You know, it's always somebody else's fault for why. I can't tell you how many race reports that I have read, especially on social media, all these problems that they've had. The car sucked, parts broke, you know, race director didn't restart the race. The list goes on and on, but then they'll end off, oh, all in all, it was a good weekend type thing. I can't tell you how many times I've read that. The overall, all in all, it was a good thing. I've read that so many times.
It's almost like there's a template now.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, there is.
You brought up you just said something that, you know, kind of sparked a thought in my mind. Restarts.
Mm-hmm.
At these bigger races, there's never a restart. Mm-mm. Is it because we've been there for so long, or is it because it's like you got 30 minutes?
The second that you start restarts for one, you have to do them for all. Because the moment that the guy, let's say you got a 15-car field that gets plowed into that started 12th in the third corner, but you did a restart for the guy that got plowed that's in third in the first corner, you're going to have that guy in your booth, in your ear, chewing your ass. Every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
What if you were to penalize that guy half a lap all the way back to the back straightaway?
So let's talk about that. So did the guy that was in third brake too soon because he got nervous, or was the guy in fourth overzealous? Because I can tell you the guy that's different.
That's different than the guy in 12th that bull rushes the whole field and runs through them.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that part. But everybody's tiptoeing, and then some are not tiptoeing.
Right.
So are we racing, or are we on pins and needles and feathers, and I'm going to take it easy going through the first corner?
Right. No, I get it. I ask because oval, which is a different beast by all means, if they don't complete a first lap, everybody, they restart it. I'm not saying I even agree with that, because some people just do stupid shit and it shouldn't affect everybody. But the off-road, when a guy comes from 15th that came in from the B and fucking doesn't lift going into turn one and runs through 3 or 4 guys up in the 4th, 5th, 6th and takes them out of the race early. I'm not saying it's right, but I mean, does a guy go down there and choke him? I mean, is that what they're supposed to do? Because, I mean, you know that's what they're thinking. Yeah. They're thinking, like, this motherfucker, if I find out who that was, if I know who that was.
Every action has consequences, every single one of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It's extremely tough. You know, a lot of people's, I've heard, you should have done this so many times.
I can't imagine.
I've heard it so many times, like, okay, you know, it's easy to say, but it's not easy to implement. The only time I do a restart is if somebody jumps a start. That's the only time that I do restarts. It's rare at races that I can say, all right, guys, if you can't make it through the first turn, you know, it'd be my discretion if we do a restart. That's extremely rare that I do that. But for the overzealous driver, I've heard the argument so many times. Well, the jackass stopped in front of me. Of course I ran into the back of him. What are you giving me a penalty for? You know, I've heard that many times. Starts are tough. There's, you know, at the bigger races, there are 18 cars on the track at one time, all bull rushing into a one corner. And the majority of the racers as a whole are trying to avoid from running into people. It's no different from, again, I'm going to go back to NASCAR. There's a problem at the front of the pack in 2 or 3. Well, this guy that's 50 feet behind him isn't looking, and he's plowing into them.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of chain reaction a little bit. Of course, you do have the bullheads that are, I'm going to pin it to win it.
Right.
I'm going to win it in the first corner. I'm going from dead last to first. But those on a big scale of things, when you really think about it, it's rare.
Yeah.
There's really not that many of them there. They stack up, and then they start accordion back, and they're just pile into one another. The way these starts are, I don't like them. I think that they could be better. How do we make them better? It's hard to spread everybody out when there's 18 cars on the track at one time.
Right.
You know, it's hard to get them 10, 15, I should say 10. It's hard to get them 15 foot apart. But I think that there needs to be a progressive start to it. First place should have a bigger gap. Second place should have a little bit bigger gap. Third place a little bit more. It should be staggered to the point to where there's more room for the TQ guy, and so on and so forth.
Right.
You know, but then it gets, 18 cars, and you're talking about 200 foot of straightaway that's needed just for the 18 cars.
Right.
For the starting grid.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's an easy solution.
No, there's not.
That's something that's I don't really want to fight that battle. Not right now, anyway.
No. But it also comes down to skill as well. Most everybody, when they're on that driver's stand, they think they drive like Mayfield.
Yeah.
When they're on that driver's stand, they think their skills is not the problem. It's the other person's skills that's the problem.
And most of the time, when depending on what skill level you're racing in, you pretty much know the guys you're racing against because you're all kind of peaking at that point, at the same point. And every now and then, a few guys get in that haven't been there before. But really, you got to hold each other accountable. That's what it comes down to. If driver B bull rushes driver A, like they need to have a conversation. Like, look, dude, we've got 30 or 45 minutes. You didn't need to do that. Or we've got a 10-minute B main, and you ruined both of our chances. Like instead of going and motherfucking them, go down there and be like, just so you know, if you would have just coasted into that corner instead of, like, what was I supposed to do? We need to work together, get through the first 5 corners, and then race. And I think that also goes back to, like, when you do have an inexperienced driver and somebody that's been doing this a long time, and the inexperienced driver causes something like that, motherfucking them isn't the right thing. I know that's the emotion that's first, and all of us do it, but it's going down there and be like, dude, great job making the main, but here we need to talk. Like, I want to race with you more often, but if you do that, you're not going to be liked by many people. Like, here's what you should have done. And it takes a special person. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a single person that's comes to mind that's going to go and do that, because we're all mad. We've worked all weekend to go and get taken out right there. That one guy ruins your race in your mind. And a lot of people can't get out of the mindset after that happens for the next 30 minutes to, like, catch back up.
Yeah. It
fucks you up.
It ruins their entire weekend. I've seen that happen many times. From just one small accident, it will ruin their entire weekend.
Yep.
And in saying that, and this is going to apply to a lot of people. If you're running in the sportsman divisions, and especially if you're in lower mains, and you come into my booth and tell me that I need to do something about driver X that's also in the sportsman lower mains, I'm going to 100% ignore you. I'm like, oh yeah? Because I can tell you right now, neither one of you have the skills that are really needed to properly control your car.
Absolutely.
That's the blunt reality of it.
But those people need to understand the reality of it. The reality is, if you were any better, you wouldn't be in that class.
You're both all over the track to begin with. So don't act like you're hitting this little 99%
expectation.
Yeah.
Got to have expectation.
Yeah. You're not as great as you think you are. You're already bouncing off from pipe to pipe as it is, just like he was as well. He didn't hack you.
If you don't want to be hacked, move up to the next level and be the hack that everyone's going to be mad at, so that you don't hack them.
That's a whole nother subject about moving up to another level. A lot of people, and I've said this several times, is that, well, you need to move this guy up. You need to move this guy up. Well, yeah, as soon as you move that guy up, then you have 5 or 6 of those other drivers. Why did you put him in there?
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm about to die.
Yeah, I'm about to as well.
I got a pee so bad.
We'll go right behind you.
I was doing the pee dance and I had to go real quick. But where we were at was people moving up and stuff like that, and it's like an epidemic.
Yeah.
It's trophy chasers. There's the sandbaggers, the lifers, you know. And I've always been one to say, look, get in where you fit in, right? But don't be mad if you stay in sportsman and you get fucking taken out by a guy that is a sportsman. And you're a guy that's been in there for 20 years. I understand your skill level, and I'm not dogging you for not being able to compete for a win in intermediate, but you are in sportsman. And if you get took out, you got to understand that 90% of those people or more are brand new. So get mad all you want, but you have no room to bitch. You're in the class that they belong in.
Yep. If you want to race with the good drivers that don't have, you know, issues with controlling their car, they know throttle control. They know how to work their brakes. You know, they know how to enter and exit a corner properly. They know how to race around people. There are a lot of people that are fast as hell, but when they get around close by somebody or somebody get close to them, they lose it.
Yeah.
That's lack of skills.
Yeah.
It's purely lack of skills. It's not that they're intentionally hacking you or anything like that.
They just can't.
They don't have the abilities.
Absolutely. So why don't you move up and become the marker and you get out of the way for the guys that are faster? If you're so worried about being taken out by one of those, I don't like to see guys that stay in a class and just dominate. I like to see them move up. But in the same token, I get it. Like, if you go up to the next level, you may never see a B main. You know? And I understand why they don't want to be never having a chance.
At the end of the day, we are not racing for B main glory, C main glory, I main glory. We're racing for the win in the A main.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's sportsman, intermediate, or pro is what we're racing for. We want to win. We want to be the best that we can be in the division with like-type drivers.
But how much fun is it being in sportsman and winning by 3 laps on a regular basis? That's the...
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
If it is, then you might have an issue.
I have heard the Cody Ingram, the Patrick Rossiter argument for so long. And it doesn't matter even if it's at the races that I'm at. That argument is being had, period, at any race that they go to.
Yeah.
You know, that they're talking about it. But at the end of the day, they are top-tier intermediate drivers. They are bottom-tier pro drivers. And they want to race to win. Manufacturers want their drivers to succeed. They are not paid drivers as far as they're not getting any kind of contingencies monies. They're not getting anything for doing anything. They may get a little something if they TQ and win, but we're talking about minimal dollars. We're not talking about life-changing dollars here by any means. They might get a few $100 or, hey, here's $1,000 for winning at DNC in the intermediate division or, you know, P&B. I don't even think it'd be $1,000, maybe $500. We're not talking about game-changing money. They spent $3,000 to go to the race or more, you know. So at the end of the day, those guys are kind of where they need to be. And I have the saying again as well, the easiest way to beat the competition is to not have to race competition. If you push them out, force them out, if you're a loud enough voice and somebody finally, you get in somebody's ear enough and they push them out into the different division, well, okay, so now you've got that winner. Now you've got that target on your back and somebody else is going to take your place about bitching. Well, that guy needs to get out.
Yeah.
But then you've also ran off the driver as well. He's not coming back to your events anymore. He's going somewhere else.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that is what makes the money.
But is there a way, and we talk about breakout and we talk about that kind of stuff, but like, is there a way to make it to where you get in where you fit in without any shout of a doubt?
Well, that's where,
other than like, I feel like I'm an intermediate guy.
Yeah.
That's where I belong. Is there a number? Is there a logistical way, a technical way to say this is where you belong all the time? Is it by like a license card?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, that's where it's just fixing to go. Yeah, it goes to a ranking system.
Ranking system.
Ranking systems, licenses, however you want to break it down. It all achieves the same goal. It's all the end result, same end result. You know, once you achieve a certain point, you know, you then earn X amount of X dollar licenses, or a rank, and this is where you belong. When you sign up from that point on, this is where you have to go. You know?
Could it be like a rolling license? Like, so let's say you take a few years off and then you come back, and then now, you know, after running 2 or 3 races, the stats bring you back down, you know, like you have to be in, let's say you made it all the way to pro, but then you run 3 races when you come back after a 3-year hiatus, and it drops you all the way down to mid-tier intermediate. Like, do you lose your A license, put you in a B license, and that's where you are? Yeah. And you know, like, that's where you race at?
We're racing. It's a perishable skill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're going to go down. You know, I love Patrick to death. Patrick's on the bottom side of his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it. He's not going to get any better. He's going to continue to maintain where he's at, and then it's going to decrease.
Right.
I mean, he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
You know, he's on the bottom side of his career.
So how far are we away from somebody coming out with that ranking system, that license system? Because I know that there's been a few people. I've been approached since beginning on the ROAR committee, at least once, maybe twice. I know it's been talked about. Like, how far are we away from that algorithm being made?
I think the one that has the control to be able to do that is Lifetime. They have the data that is needed. This is another, and I'm going to just touch on this just a little bit. There needs to be defined specific classes. Like, there's 35 plus buggy, 40 plus buggy. There's 50 plus, like DNC this weekend, they're running a 40 plus and a 50 plus. There needs to be defined pro.
This is a 35 plus down at Buggy Land.
Yeah.
Like a whole new number.
Yeah, which I think that's what they run typically overseas.
Okay.
Is 35 plus. That's the reason why.
Gotcha.
There needs to be a defined pro. There needs to be a defined intermediate. And there needs to be a defined sportsman. But then you also throw in the open in there as well. Well, how do you do this for the club races? How are you going to break all this stuff down for club races? Do you include club races in on this ranking system with this reports that is going to be able to be generated by Lifetime, because they have all the data? So how are you going to intermix all of that stuff in together? I don't know. It's beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to do all that. I have to figure it all out. But there needs to be defined classes. And again, this comes back to the sanctioning body. You know, if you're going to have these big national races, these are the way things need to be broke down, and everything needs to be the same. There doesn't need to be any different classes available at DNC that's not available at P&B. There doesn't need to be any additionals. I'm kind of finally onto the point, even though we don't really need any more classes, we do need to have a different skill level that is related to e-truggy. E-truggy has gotten huge. It's massive. Mm-hmm. It needs to be split up. Does it need to have?
We did that at Fall Brawl. We did pro
right,
sportsman.
We did an open sportsman.
Open sportsman.
It has not reached the point yet where it needs a pro division, because the pros on that scale here on the East Coast just aren't really heavily involved in e-truggy. Now out west, they're all signed up for it left and right.
Well, they're only doing it for that extra class for track time to learn layouts. So like DNC, Silver State, PNB, you know, like the 4 or 5 majors in the country. So, I mean, and most of them don't even want to run it. They're doing it because it's just helping them. Like, it's an extra, like for DNC, it's an extra 3 practices. That's huge.
Yeah.
When everyone's only getting 3 per class, that e-buggy or e-truggy is another 3.
And here's another question that the amount of practice that goes on in RC blows my damn mind.
Yeah.
I go back to every single aspect of everything that I was related to, whether it be drag racing, go-kart racing. I've never seen so much practice in my life.
In wanting more. Oval's even worse in RC than what you experience on a regular basis, because the oval guys, like, as soon as they stop round 1 and go into round or are resorting for round 2, there's a mad rush 45 fucking cars on the track for fucking 3 minutes, killing each other and getting mad because there's 14 cars flipped over.
Yeah.
Right. The practice, you're exactly right, which would also dictate a little bit of that skill level, because if everyone only had X amount of practices, maybe you don't become an intermediate so quickly, or maybe you don't get into pros so quickly. And that license system takes it's prolonged because you show up to these tracks and races. Now you show up on, let's say it's a 1-day race, from 8 to 10, everybody gets 2 practices in the morning.
Right.
You know, it's a 200 or 150 entry race, whatever. And that's what everybody gets. And it's by your class. And that's it. Now we're going on to the race.
Yeah.
And if everyone had the same thing, then you are 100% fair and unbiased. Yeah. And everyone had the exact same opportunity. The only thing that would make anything different, unless you do like you do with FRCC, is you could run 4 classes or something to get the extra time. That's great for the promoter. Not so great for the people that can't afford it or don't want to do it. But, you know, money, certain things, money's going to rule over, you know, not having it. It's just the way it goes. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many ways we could change things, you know, and make it more fair. That is one thing that I actually do like about DNC and Silver State. You get the same thing as Ryan Mayfield does. If you want to run 4 classes, you're going to run the exact same amount of, you know, track time that Ryan Mayfield gets. And however you're prepared, as long as you're prepared good enough, you're going to end up with the, you know, same amount of opportunity. And why not everywhere? Why aren't we doing that everywhere?
Yeah.
You know, the block practicing that you've been putting on at these events the last couple of years has been great because everyone's got the same amount of time.
Yeah, everybody gets on the track about the same amount of time for practice.
The only way you could do it differently is like we've discussed is like a ticketing system where with every entry you get X amount of tickets and you can use them however you want, whenever you want, but that's all you get. You know, and that's something that I want to, you know, I've talked about that before on this podcast and publicly, but I think that's another way of doing it. So where you get what you get and that's it. Use it how you want. Use it all on one car. Use it all, you know, you can use, if you get 3 tickets per car that you sign up for, then you use those 3 tickets on each car. But
I would like to see for the pro classes, and actually Matt Walter was the one that suggested this. Like, you know, it's not a bad idea. You could do the pro classes by heats. You know, this is going to be your time for pro e-buggy. This is going to be your time for pro nitro truck. This is going to be your time for pro nitro buggy. And this is your time that you're going to get your practice, and it's by heat. Everybody gets the same amount on the pro. But he said on the sportsman side, you know, give them guys that are struggling to find those setups and things like that, give them the additional track time. Cut all this additional track time out that the pros are allowed to have. He said give them specific times that they're going to be on the track, tell them how many times they're going to be allowed on the track, and then that's it.
Yeah, but they know it's even.
Yeah.
They know that this guy's not getting any more than they are.
Yeah.
And they know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Yeah. And I love the fact that then you can open it up for the sportsman and maybe even a little less so for intermediate, but still like half hour here, 20 minutes here, heats here.
Yep.
You know, so that way everyone knows and it's the same for everybody. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it was a pretty good idea that he told me about that. And I'm like, you know, it's not a bad idea to do at P&B, you know, because it's just 24 hours of practice. But then you have to have somebody there policing it the whole entire time. You know, how do you
P&B might not be the right one.
Yeah.
Like a Wicked Weekend or a Fall Brawl or, somewhere. Yeah. P&B is its own beast, and it's kind of like disqualified from trying to figure out how to make it right.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's, you know, the year that we had the 1,000 entries, there's 470 individual people there. The line was insanely long.
It was tough. It was tough.
So I listened to all of the people, even some of the pros, Ty Tessman was one of them, complaining about how long the lines were. You know, this, that, and everything else. And I agreed, the line was long. And talking about they didn't get any quality track time and all the people that were cutting the line and this, that, and everything else. And I went back and I looked, and one of the ones that was complaining about I didn't get a quality track time, people holding line, cutting the line, this, that, and everything else. When I went back and looked at the ones that he was complaining about, And then I looked at how many times he was on the track, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, you were on the track more times than he was. So you got on the track 2 more additional times than he was, but you were complaining about him. So you're just making shit up. That's all you're doing. You're just stirring the damn pot of a pot that's empty. You're just making it up. Well, I don't have to worry about it anymore. You ain't around anymore. So it amazes me.
If like that's the one thing that like going back to DNC and Silver State, the structure. And so there's a couple things I really like about those 2 events that make sense for big events like race time and dirt events. What I love about it is, for me personally, because, this is just me talking, I like to run.
And I apologize that I'm eating y'all. I have not had anything to eat
Yeah,
today, so I'm starving.
I had to make sure he didn't fucking have like
I'm starving.
Coma from not eating. I love the fact that Joey runs certain classes on Thursday and Saturday, and certain classes on Friday and Sunday. Because for events like Vegas, if I'm running 40-plus buggy and intermediate buggy, I don't have to bring a truck or anything, and I get 2 days off, and I get to enjoy my time at a place like that.
Right.
Now, what the other factor is, on Wednesday, the practice day, everybody gets the exact same practice time. We don't get that with race time. Now, Psycho, I don't think that it should apply to. I think Psycho by itself is its own event, and it is Psycho because there's so many people, and because it's 24 hours practice, and because you might have to stand in line. Like, you have to figure it out. Like, I'm not trying to say let's change Psycho, but what I do like for structured events like DNC and Silver State is the fact that you just know when you're up. You could be one of the people that doesn't get a practice because your car fails, or you break on lap 2 of, you get 6 laps or whatever. I get it. I've been that guy. But you have the same opportunity that everybody else had. Doesn't mean that it's going to work out for you, but you're not treated unfairly. You don't have to worry about a guy that has a dad or a pit man that'll wait in line so you get more practices or anything. You don't have to worry about hurrying up and going and waiting in that line so you can get a practice. You just know when you're up. It's practice by heats, and you only get 2 of them.
So you like the AMS, the way AMS is of the race time events. You like that?
Yes, because it goes back to what you were just talking about for the pros that Matt Walter brought up, is like it's structured. But it's structured for everybody, not just the pros. And maybe sportsman gets 4 and intermediate gets 3 practices and pros get 2 somehow. Yeah. How it's split up and how it would work out. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe intermediate and sportsman get 3 and pros get 2. I don't know. And this is all just spitballing. But it's structured. You know what it is, when it is, and it is for everybody. And that makes it so much more enjoyable because, like I said, you don't have, like, good for Spencer Rifkin that Ronnie will show up and he'll go stand in line. Good for him. Not everyone has that. My wife, if she were to show up to PMB this year, is not going to go stand in that fucking line holding my radio. Yeah. I am responsible for holding that fucking radio. Yeah. Do I want an extra practice? Yeah. Do I want to go wait in line for an hour? No. Yeah. I'll wait till midnight or 2 in the morning.
I don't know if you know, but for PMB, we're doing block practice this year.
Which PMB could be great. I don't know if I agree with it because PMB, like I just said, PMB is its own race, and it has changed so much from Unadilla. Yeah. Like, that was what made PMB what it was. 24 hours all the time.
But it's still going to be 24 hours, so there'll be a 12-hour session of block and then 12 hours of open. We're going to start the track off in an open format, just like we always have. And then, it's like 6 a.m., and then starting like at 8 a.m., we're going to run 12 hours of block practice. So there'll be a window there where people...
know when you're going to get on the track, which is great. And I'm not saying change isn't good. I'm just saying the only race that I kind of take out of place is PMB, because I believe when you use the word Psycho Nitro Blast, it's supposed to be like you go home and you sleep for 2 days because you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I want that race to remain that, because we don't have... I don't want every race to be the same fucking thing over and over. That's why I'm always thinking of concepts. Yeah. But I do love the structure of DNC and Silver State because you're at no disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Your disadvantage is your preparation, if you're going to choose to, or poor luck. Yeah. That's your disadvantage. Your advantage is nobody has an advantage over you. Mm-hmm. I like that. So if you were able to figure that out somehow on these 400 or 500 inch races, instead of only getting 2 practices, you might get 3 or 4. Whereas like these 1,000 inch races, everyone gets 2. Mm-hmm. We understand that because we don't want to be here till Tuesday. We know we have to leave Sunday. So 2 is fine because I know that you're getting 2 and I'm getting 2 for every class I run. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I think people are fine with fairness. But I also think people understand at certain races, it's all no holds barred. And it's all how the promoter or the race director puts it down. Mm-hmm. This is how it's going to be. And if you put it out there, you catch somebody, you make an example of them cheating or fucking getting an extra one in, it'll stop. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know you're that guy. You're the kind of guy, I'm that guy. Like, you can't do that. Sorry, you're done. You know, you tried to beat the system. Your system's been broken. You're done. Your transponder's not in your car. I know what you're doing. Goodbye. You know, come back for qual 1. Yeah. Qual 1, you get no more practice. Yep. Your next race is qual 1. Yep. You did it to yourself. Yep. You cheated.
I have made.
Oh, Ever Lobos at Psycho last year.
I have made world champions walk off that driver's stand.
Of course. I had, or it wasn't at Ever Lobos at Peach State or Florida, Georgia, Georgia.
Yeah, I have. I don't care who it is. If you're not abiding by the rules or you're trying to get an unfair advantage, I don't care who you are.
Pretty sure you just said Biden. But Ever Lobos, I fucking completely talked him into going out.
Did you really?
I did.
You turd.
Oh, no. This is, dude, I had to call him daddy. So
I know you did.
There was a lot on the line.
Yeah.
And so when I told him, dude, just go out. No one's going to, I knew. I fucking knew. And I told Ever, go out there. And I know you didn't get any laps today. Go get some. No one's going to know. And you fucking busted him. And I was hoping that he was calling me daddy until the fall brawl. But no, he still beat me, dude. So, like, that was all planned for me. Like, that fucking guy. Yeah. But yeah, There's a way, and I think that you're a forward thinker. Dave's a forward thinker. Joey's a forward thinker. Fucking Babcock. Like, you guys, when you're the ultimate professional, you're trying to make things better. You think about it. Mm-hmm. As promoters, we think, how can we make things better? Why are things more successful at events than other events? Mm-hmm. You know, Masters is successful because we have a good time. You know, Fall Brawl is successful because it's always at the same time of year and always a really good turnout for the Southeast and Northeast. You know, Vegas. Silver State's easy. It's Vegas.
It's Vegas.
DNC's 25 years this year going strong. You know, PNB is the craziest race of the year. Mm-hmm. Like, it shouldn't change from that. Yeah. So these are staples. Yeah. And that's why they stay like that. But if everybody else would just listen, and I'm not saying that we have all the answers. I'm just saying take pages from other people's books and do your events like this, because it's not like you're copying a lot of times. It's that you're trying to conform and make things better for everyone, not just copy. Like, I don't want to do that because Lance is doing it. Well, that's a good idea, and there's nothing wrong with using good ideas. Mm-hmm. If you got a better idea,
there's no patent on any.
Yeah, we might use your better idea if we see it happen. Yeah, you know, I've always told everybody the one thing that, like, I always tell everybody, it's like, use the hooligan event. Just say that you saw it at Masters. Yeah, because it is a great fun event. But just say, like, we're gonna do this, and we were at Masters this last year and it was awesome, so we're doing it.
You know what the most fun that I ever had when we did, and I don't know if you were there or not, we did the egg race, the egg roll 500 at Southside, where everybody put a raw egg on the back of their car. And then we had egg hunters as well. So there would be 10 cars. I think we put up $100 as like the win. So there had 10, 12 cars all, and you could protect the car or the egg any way you wanted to, but the egg still had to be visible. No matter how much of it's visible, but it still had to be visible. You couldn't 100% encapsulate it. So they come up with a whole bunch of different ways of how to attach this egg underneath the wing, on the back of the car. Some of them were pretty ingenious. Some of them weren't too smart. So if you egg busted, you're out. Like if you could see the egg going out all the place, you're out. Well, after the first few laps, and hacking was allowed. So after the first few laps, if somebody's kind of running away with this thing, we sent out the egg hunters. And we had guys that were in truggies that we sent out with to go bust people's eggs and stuff like that. And you had to make legit laps around the track. You know, you couldn't just be jumping over the pipe, cutting the track, just running into
just stay in the pipe and run track.
You had to run legitimate laps. You know, now the egg hunters could do whatever they wanted to do, but we had a blast with that.
That's awesome.
Oh,
that's a good one.
It was so much fun to be handing out those eggs, and someone would come back, hey, we busted our egg. Try to get it on the car, get another one, type thing.
That's awesome.
And that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. There was some pretty ingenious ways they came up with to attach those eggs to the car, and I'm not going to say them because if we ever do it again, I want it to be.
But maybe, and this is just suggesting, I don't want to ruin a great idea, but maybe you say you can only use these materials to attach it.
No, just leave it open. I'm telling you, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was very
awesome.
worth it to see some of the things that they came up with.
I'd love to see or be part of that in the future.
It was pretty cool.
So the hooligan race started off with Frank Denny putting up $100 at Masters many years ago when he could attend a Masters. You all right?
I guess that, excuse me. I apologize. I guess that water decided to go down the wrong pipe.
Quality H2O. But Frank Denny put up $100 at one of the Masters early on, and the next year he's like, I want to do that again as a sponsor. And I was like, okay. And then we're getting ready to put it up, and someone's like, hey, from the crowd. Yeah. They're like, hey, I want to put up another $50 to the winner of this. Yeah, cool, man. So $150 to the winner. Well, the next year, people that keep coming every year to Masters was like, they remember that. And next thing you know, someone's like, I also want to put up $50. So what started off as $100, the first year, last year, Lee Setzer won $1,700.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Because now we take, I know the hooligan lines our walls.
Yes, yeah.
People sitting on it.
Yeah.
It is the event to be watching, and it's all by luck. I take everyone's name, put it in a hat, and we draw 15. And 2 years ago, we started doing, you could buy the last spot in.
Wow.
And we would bid on the last spot. So you could get in just to try to win the money by buying it. And I think this year was like $200 or $300.
Wow.
So to get into this race, you either have to be lucky or you got to spend money. And now there's people like Barry Schimmel from Coastal's like, from Facebook, I'll do $300, and so we just pay it out. Nice. Everything comes in PayPal. But yeah, so the year before last year, Cavallari was with Tater's car or someone's car won $1,300. It's made it all the way to $1,700. So my goal this year is for someone to win $2,000. So
nice.
Yeah, those are the ideas and things that just people run with it. You know what I mean? And it becomes an event within an event. And that's what I like, is not just having these cookie cutter races. When I say that, I mean like just putting on a race, 2 qualifiers in a main, 3 qualifiers in a main, but throwing something in there. Like the Wicked Weekend that Dave, when Alex Pilson was still involved with Reds, and he did the vodka shot race where you had to do 2 laps, go down, and or they were doing shots every lap you did, and then you had to go down and hand your radio off. Someone else came up.
I must have been before I got involved.
It was my first Wicked Weekend, and I was part of that race, and we had to do 3 shots before we even got on the driver's stand, which kind of came up, which once again, like I said, it's always good to use people's ideas and maybe change them to make them better. That's where the fireball race came from for Masters. Yeah. So people need to know that this is not just a hobby you spend a ton of money in. You got to have fun. You know, and I know it's at the risk of possibly someone getting hurt, and we always try our best to like mitigate that.
So that's another thing that I was talking about with the guys, you know, for the FRCC round. So I've got those 16 team associated RB10s, all handout cars, all identical cars. So for my banquet next year, because since we got a 10 scale series, do 8 scale, like from 10 to 3 or 11 to 3 for the banquet hour. But then after that, say from 4 to 9 or 4 to 7, whatever it is we want to do, the 10th scale. But in that downtime between when we get done with that 3 o'clock with that 8 scale banquet, well, all the 10th scale guys are going to be coming in. Hey guys, we're going to have a race. You're going to have 2-man teams, and you're going to use these cars, and you're going to battle it out for some money.
Yeah,
you know. Let the 8 scale guys battle it out with the 10th scale guys. It'd be random draw of people that want to get involved in it, and let them have a money race. Y'all have some fun, because there's really not a lot of the 8 scale and 10th scale. There's people dedicated specifically to 10th scale. There's people dedicated specifically to 8 scale.
Yep.
And let them guys go at it. Have some fun.
So like to an 8 scale guy with a 10 scale guy type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let them go at it.
That's fun.
Have some fun.
We need that. We need more of that, because the seriousness is real when we get to these bigger events. You know, like it is very, very high.
There needs to be some fun.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people say it's toy cars. I know we have a lot of money invested in this stuff. Okay, well, let's have some fun with it.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine like a Paul Wynn teamed up, you know, with Tony Padishaw?
Yeah.
You know, going at it,
or a Schmidt, exactly.
You know, just it'd be hilarious. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with that.
In a legit race.
I agree with that. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I know, like, we've had long days, and we got, you know, a day tomorrow, but the fact that you're here and we got to sit down,
we luckily didn't get to talk about any real serious stuff. So,
but that's not fun.
You know, we got to have some banter. Yeah.
This podcast is meant for people to listen and not feel like, I mean, we want the serious shit. I think we covered some really good stuff tonight. And I'm so glad we didn't talk about the bad stuff, because there's so much of that. And I think this went in a very, very good direction. And I did, all truth aside, or all truth, all whatever.
Yeah.
All things aside, I'm so glad we didn't go down that road.
Yeah.
Because there's things we could have said and brought up that wouldn't be good for either one of us.
There are, you know, on the business side of things, with anything, there's some really ugly parts to it.
Yeah.
There really is. There's some ugly side to it. I don't like discussing and hashing on that stuff. I want to work on the stuff that makes things better, moves forward. You know, it amazes me how selfish people can be, and that's just in life in general.
Yeah,
with things. And in all reality, they need to relax. They need to enjoy the experience. Forget about the finish. I've said that 100 times. You don't realize that 20 years from now, when you're looking back, this little petty shit that you're just having an absolute meltdown over, you won't remember.
Means nothing.
Means absolutely nothing. You won't remember it all. All you're going to remember is all the good times that you had. Like all those years that I competitively raced go-karts all over the nation, all over the place, racing those things. I barely remember any of the bad times.
Yeah.
Like I can't even really think of one right off the top of my head, but I remember the good times.
Yep.
I remember them. I forgot about those really bad times.
So let's just focus on the good times, and let's focus on just keeping RC fun. And obviously, we're both professionals in the industry, so we need to keep making money to keep our bills paid and our mouths fed. But in the grand scheme of things, man, we just need to keep having fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Appreciate
you, brother.
Appreciate you, Lance. Man. Good times, man.
Yeah, have a good night.
On to the next one.
See you early in the morning.
Yes, you will.
We
out.
Have a good night.
BeachRC.com, the racer's one-stop online hobby shop. Choose from all the popular brand and variety in stock with super fast shipping and great customer service. BeachRC.com still has the local hobby shop feel with all the benefits of the internet. BeachRC.com is the exclusive distributor for Ultimate Racing, S-Works, Pro Circuit Racing tires, Nitro Lux fuels, and Assault RC performance products. So fill up your cart and check out at BeachRC.com today.